ये तो pause कर देंगे। Hi everyone. Thank
Good
you
afternoon.
for joining.
Yeah.
एक-एक करके let's start. ये बंद. एक-एक करके let's start testing. So Ansh, you can test first. Just speak something, say hello, and present your screen.
Yeah, okay. So, hello, ma'am, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Presenting my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah, I can see the Zoom browser.
Right. Yeah.
ठीक
I'm
है.
starting.
Works. Okay. Thank you. Arshpreet, you can go next.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
So I'm sharing the Google Firefox browser. Is it visible?
Yeah, I can see the Zoom.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Okay. Kanika, you can go next.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, is the screen visible?
Yes, I can see your Bluetooth setting browser. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Deep Darshan, you can test.
Hello,
Yeah.
I am audible and
Yes.
completely. Yeah.
Hey everyone.
Can see yeah, two screens you shared.
Yeah.
Demo. ठीक है.
Okay.
Can see.
Thank you.
Akshay, you can try next.
Yeah.
Deep Darshan, I think you can stop the screen share. चल रहा है ना?
Yeah,
can-
ma'am. Like, I am not in.
Yeah, my desktop is visible
Yes, it is.
and Chrome tab.
Yeah, yeah. Can see.
Yeah, that's only.
Okay. Thanks. Harshil, you can try next.
Yes. Can you just confirm that my voice is loud enough that it can be?
Yeah, can hear you. I hope your video is also fine. Like, can you test that out? Yeah, it's okay.
See? And screen is also working, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can see Zoom only.
Sorry?
I could see Zoom only, basically the Zoom screen.
Okay.
Were you presenting something?
No, I just stopped presentation. Can you see?
Can
no
see.
presentation visible?
Yeah. All good. Thank you. Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Himanshi. You can test out your audio
Hello.
and the screen share.
Wait a second.
Your voice is breaking, thoda sa.
Am I audible now?
No, it's fine. Test out your video also.
Uh,
While you are giving throughout the event, just make sure to have your videos on. Not right now, but when the event starts, because we will be spotlighting you guys through your demos, through felicitation. And if your videos aren't on, we won't be able to spotlight you. So make sure that you keep your videos on, unless of course there's a very bad network. Yeah, Himanshi can see on screen, can see Zoom.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, Zoom is visible, the Zoom browser page. Can you hear us, Himanshi?
Yes. Just give me a second.
Yeah, we can see your screen. Can you hear us? But your video is not visible.
Yeah, my camera is on.
Yeah, there's some problem with your video. Just try to rejoin once.
Yes. Just give me a second.
Hi, Himanshi, Garima this side. Anushila is just out for 2 minutes. Anybody else left for testing?
Yep, me, Nilesh.
Nilesh, you can come.
Like, is my voice clear?
Hi, Nilesh, your voice was clear. Could you also please switch on your video and share your screen?
Is the screen visible?
Yeah, your screen is visible. I think there's some issue with your virtual background. You can remove it in case you're not able to apply it properly. You can remove it. It's fine.
Is it fine now? I think that was because of the wall.
Yeah, it's fine now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, hi, Manshi.
Is my video visible?
Yeah, it's visible now. Can you also share your screen?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see your Zoom browser.
Okay.
Cool, thank you. Uh,
Is Khushbu here? Khushbu, can you hear me?
Yes, Anushila, I'm here.
Yeah, this is Garima. Khushbu, can you switch on your video and share your screen as well?
Yes. Am I my video is visible?
Yeah. Your video is visible and you're audible as
Let
well.
me share my screen.
Yeah.
So I can see different windows, not entire screen. It's visible?
It's taking some time to load. Yeah, I can see your Zoom screen on your browser. Yeah, saw your presentation. Great. Thanks so much, Khushbu.
Yes. Okay, so now it's visible?
Yeah, it's visible. It's visible. You can
Whole
stop
screen is
screen
visible?
sharing. Yeah, did you do full screen or it's just your browser that is showing right now?
I think my
can see your
browser.
Yeah.
I can't see any entire screen. So did my BSc also?
You can do slideshow and then it should be visible.
Okay.
Have you done slideshow? I just want to be sure that it's loading.
Yes.
Yeah, it's visible. Great. Thanks so much, Kushbu. You can stop sharing now. Yeah. Is anybody else remaining, or are we done with everyone? Cool. Thanks. Hi, Siddhant.
Hello.
Yeah,
I'm
is
audible?
your yeah, you're audible. Can you switch on your video as well, please?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Siddhant, can you try sharing your screen as well? We can just test if your presentation is visible. Yeah, you can see your browser. Great. You're not, I think you're on mute.
Hello, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so is the
Okay.
code is also visible, like the code I'm open right now?
Yeah. Everything is visible.
Okay.
Great.
So can I? Okay.
Yeah. Siddhant, just one request. I've shared the virtual background in the chat. So you can just use the same one.
Okay, let me try.
Yeah.
Garima,
Yes, Kushbu.
my VSC is also visible to you that time.
Sorry,
This
I
was
didn't get you.
a blue screen.
Can't recall. I just saw your presentation. Do you want to do a screen share again? We can check.
Okay, let me share my screen again.
Ma'am, can you send the background again?
Yeah, let me share that again.
Okay, thank you.
So now my presentation is visible.
1 second. Yeah, I can see your presentation. Yeah.
So I want to show this incongruent window. It is visible also.
It's loading. Yeah, I can. 1 second. You switched your
Database.
screen. Yeah, welcome to Metabase. Yeah, it's showing
Yes,
that.
okay.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Anushila, just doing a sound check. You can hear me well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. We're just waiting for a couple of more minutes and then we'll start. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gayatri Chandrasekharan. I'm Outreach Manager at Samagra. We are very excited to have all of you join us for the finale of the first edition of Code for GovTech, C4GT 2022. Joining us today are representatives from government, engineering students, and the broader GovTech open source ecosystem. We launched Code for GovTech in May with our partners as an annual summer coding program for engineering students across the country. And it's been gratifying to see how the program has fostered the spirit of contributing, community, and mentorship in tech. The last 3 months have been incredibly exciting, to say the least, and we are very happy to see all of it come together today. Before we kick off the day's proceedings, I'll quickly walk you through what you can expect today. We'll start off with an overview of the C4GT program, following which we'll have a fireside chat with Mr. Abhishek Singh, CEO of the National eGovernance Division. This conversation will be moderated by Varad Pande, partner at Omidyar India. We will then proceed to the demo showcase by the C4GT contributors and feedback and takeaways from our panel of leading open source and GovTech practitioners. The last and most exciting part of today's event will be the felicitation of the C4GT class of 2022. So to start off the day's proceedings, I would like to bring in Gaurav Goyal, founder and CEO of Samagra. Samagra is a mission-driven governance consulting firm, where the mission is to improve the quality of life of citizens through better governance. We work with the bureaucratic leadership of states and the center to solve complex governance challenges across domains as diverse as education, agriculture, health, skilling, public service delivery, and employment. All of this work is powered by tech and data, and Samagra has invested significantly in developing its GovTech and DataGov capabilities, which is housed under the Samagra X vertical. Operating at this unique intersection of tech, data, and governance, Samagra has worked with multiple partners to conceptualize and organize Code for GovTech. Gaurav would now request you to share an overview of C4GT and the highlights from this inaugural year.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Gayatri, and very happy to be here. I'll run the participants of the session through the journey of C4GT in this inaugural edition of 2022. C4GT or Code for GovTech was conceptualized with the objective of sensitizing and galvanizing the young engineering talent in the country, especially the talent in the engineering colleges towards open source GovTech, towards digital public goods. It was conceptualized as an annual summer coding program for engineering students, where they get to contribute to real active open source digital public goods and get hands-on one-on-one mentoring from leading GovTech practitioners across different organizations in the GovTech ecosystem in the country. Along the way, we've gotten exposure to a lot of GovTech leaders, and we'll see some of them today who all have been supporting C4GT in the inaugural edition. And of course, this was accompanied with a competitive stipend and the pre-placement interview offer they get with the mentoring partner organizations. In the beginning itself, for this inaugural edition, there were 4 organizations which are mentoring partners for C4GT this year: X-Tech Foundation, Takedi, Samagra X, and Sanketika Consulting. They're all organizations working actively in the GovTech ecosystem in the country. All the repos have been hosted on GitHub, which is a platform partner. And for outreach, we had CodeChef and Unstock as partners. The entire effort has been supported by Omidyar India. We have Varad representing Omidyar here today. And the organization of C4GT has been overseen by Samagra. We got a very good response in the short period of time. There were some 346 detailed applications that were received from 57 different engineering colleges across the country. Finally, through a competitive process, 13 contributors were selected to contribute to 9 digital public goods overseen by 7 mentors from the mentoring partner organizations. It's been an exciting 3-month journey, and especially the last 2 months when actual coding has been happening and actual contributions are being made to digital public goods that I talked about. Let me give you some of the highlights of these 3 months. It started off on the 17th of May when the C4GT was announced, and today we are on 17th of August, exactly 3 months. Let me share some highlights. The first and most important highlight is the rich contributor experience that's been provided over the last 2 months. And this was one of the goals that the team had set for itself at the beginning of C4GT. So they've received, all the contributors have received one-on-one mentoring from practitioners in the GovTech space. They've heard perspectives of GovTech leaders, a whole array and variety of GovTech leaders in the country. They've had access to peer learning sessions and, of course, a very hands-on coding experience over the last 2 months when they've been contributing to DPGs. And in addition to these contributors, there's a community of open source contributors of more than 650 of them on a Discord channel that's been created. And this is a community that's extremely active. Even after today's finale, the idea is to keep this community engaged and keep on sharing open source GovTech problem statements there. People can own, people can solve, people can kind of maintain the repos for. So that's the community for life in some sense that's been created for the people who've been engaged with C4GT this year. Independent anonymous survey was done with all the contributors where they were asked on a scale of 1 to 10 of how likely are they to recommend C4GT to their peers, and it's got an overwhelming response of a rating of 9.7 on a score of 10, on a scale of 10. The second and equally important is the contribution that has been made to digital public goods through this 2-month journey. So 3 digital public goods: Shiksha, which is a suite of open source reference applications in the education ecosystem; Sunbird Core, which is something that's powering Diksha, something that powered the COVID platform and many other open digital ecosystems in the country; UCI, Unified Communications Interface, which is again a digital public good focused on communications, streamlined communications. There have been 9 projects that the contributors have worked upon and developed more than 5 features, writing more than 100,000 lines of code over the last 2 months itself. C4GT in the inaugural edition itself has received overwhelming response from GovTech leaders, and I just shared all have been part of the journey. So in the inauguration event, we had Dr. Saurabh Garg, CEO of Aadhaar, and Dr. Pramod Verma, the Chief Architect of Aadhaar in India's lab. Both of them kicked off C4GT as an initiative 2 months back. Then at the midpoint showcase, when 1 month of coding and contribution to DPGs had happened, then a panel came together from XTech Foundation, eGov Foundation, and Beacon Foundation. XTech Foundation works in the space of education, eGov Foundation works in the space of urban governance, and Beacon Foundation is powering, Beacon is powering ONDC. So leaders from these 3 organizations came and the contributors presented their what they had developed to this panel. Subsequently, Sanjay is a leader in this space. He is partner at the Bharat Innovation Fund, or the chief product manager at Aadhaar, architect at India's Lab. Sanjay was to be part of actually today's session, but because of last moment scheduling issues, he couldn't. So he sent a video message for us, which we'll see later in the day as the session goes along. Sanjay has been a supporter of C4GT from the very beginning. Today, we have another panel to which the contributors will be presenting to. We have Gandhari from GitHub and now recently shifted to Microsoft. We have Kiran, who's the advisor at NHG, the National Health Authority, and Puneet, who's the principal architect at MOSIP. MOSIP is the digital public good or the platform that's taking identity global from India. So that's the panel that the contributors will be presenting to today. And with this, let me segue into also the next session, where we have Shri Abhishek Singh. He is a 95 batch IAS officer. He's heading MyGov, heading NEGD, heading Digital India Corporation, and recently took on the responsibility of Karmayogi Bharat, which is an important initiative of the Government of India. And moderating the discussion will be Varad Pande, a partner at Omidyar India. Omidyar has been supporting C4GT, and Varad himself has been a big proponent and somebody who's really shaped national open thinking on national open digital ecosystems or nodes. So very happy to have Shri Abhishek Singh and Varad here for this discussion. And now I'll hand over to Varad to moderate this discussion with Abhishek. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you, Gaurav. It's a real pleasure to be here at the finale event of Code for GovTech 2022. I'm Varad. As Gaurav mentioned, I'm a partner at Omidyar India. We are an investment firm focused on impact. We invest in bold entrepreneurs who are in the service of what we call the next 500 million Indians. I lead the firm's work on strategy and the work on national open digital ecosystems or ODEs and digital public goods. You can see more about our thinking and our perspective on this on the website opendigitalecosystems.net, where you can also sign up for our newsletter. I wanted to start by saying that this has been a truly unique and inspiring program. When Gaurav, Rahul, Ujjwal had first shared the idea with us about 5 or 6 months ago, I was quite skeptical. The questions like, why would youngsters be interested in writing code for government projects? What value might they add in this very complex space called GovTech, an area where there are so many vendors and big tech companies and who have their crack teams working day in and day out. Thankfully, I was proven wrong. Not only was there a groundswell of interest among young students with the 346 applications of 57 colleges across India, but I think the well-structured program with clear project descriptions and inspiring mentors, many of whom are here today, led to some important unlocks in the journey of 9 open source GovTech products. And I feel these projects can enable tangible improvements in the lives of millions of Indians. Just to give you 2 examples, I was reading through the profiles. The project on the Sunbird QUML will enable better shuffling of options and digitized tests in schools, improving accuracy and reducing cheating. The project on Shiksha, the project on the Shiksha front end, will hopefully help create a better experience for students and parents, where announcements related to, say, homework or attendance are being shared by schools online. The project on the unified communication interface will improve the government-citizen interaction wherever this web channel is used. And of course, the best part is that all of these are in the open source, meaning that anyone can not only see these, but adapt and adopt these, and the whole code repository is on GitHub. You will obviously see a demo of these in greater detail. I wouldn't steal the thunder. All I can say is that these projects really inspire me, and I'm sure they will inspire many of you. What better tribute to the talent of our young student engineers and their potential to contribute to nation building on the 75th anniversary of our independence. So to kick off today's proceedings, I'm delighted to welcome my friend and one of India's leading GovTech pioneers, Mr. Abhishek Singh, to this fireside chat. Abhishek ji, welcome. Abhishek ji is an IAS officer of the 1995 batch, diverse experiences across the central and the state governments. He's a fellow alumni of the Harvard Kennedy School, where he was a prestigious Mason Fellow, as well as a BTech and MTech from IIT Kanpur. E-governance and GovTech is a theme that I think has run throughout his long career. As Gaurav said, he currently wears many hats. He's the CEO of MyGov, the Government of India's citizen engagement platform, CEO of Digital India Corporation, and recently appointed CEO of Karmayogi Bharat, the special purpose entity to set up a world-class digital platform to reimagine capacity building for India's civil service under mission Karmayogi. Incidentally, he's looking for bright young talent to join his team on this ambitious mission. So do look up his LinkedIn post if that interests you. Abhishek ji is a true champion of both FOSS, free and open source software, and the deployment of DPGs or digital public goods in improving governance and service delivery, having personally been involved with Diksha and NDR in education, the IDEA project in agriculture, CoVIN in health, and I'm sure many others, as well as creating the broader enabling environment for DPGs at his role in METI. Thank you for joining us today, Abhishek ji.
Thank you, Varad. It's an honor to hear. Thank you for the long introduction. I don't know how much of it deserve, but I must compliment the entire team for this fabulous event. And I'm sure the projects which are showcased will have a lot to add to our GovTech repository.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it'll be great to maybe go into a few themes with you. India has obviously made tremendous progress on building digital public goods DPGs, all the way from DWOC, the CoVIN platform, Sunbird, Digit, MOSIP. All of this have the common theme of the building blocks approach, interoperability and scalability at its core. And now these are being actively used by organizations in even other countries at scale. the story of our CoWIN platform, the vaccine management solution, and Diksha, the teacher empowerment solution, are a testament to this. What do you feel would be the role of DPGs for India and India's trajectory in the story as we go from India at 75 to India at 100?
See, you very rightly said, Varad, that we have had a great experience of building digital public goods at population scale. So whether it's the identity platform or the payments platform or the Diksha or the DigiLocker, all these projects have been conceptualized in such a manner that it can be adapted, applied to any other country, any other geography, or any other application also. So the value that it adds is, for example, just the vaccination, the CoWIN application and the DIVOC open source platform through which we get the certificates. It has been envy of the entire world that how is India able to give more than 2 billion vaccine certificates for the 2 billion doses given, wherein most of the developed world is still relying on paper certificates. So now the same CoWIN application, the same DIVOC application for vaccine certificates is being adapted within India for making CoWIN also the universal vaccination platform. Because if we can get certificates for COVID vaccination, why can't we give certificates to people for BCG, DPT, polio, measles, rubella, and all kinds of vaccines which are given to infant children after they are born? So when you do that, it's just a tweaking of the whole same platform and ensuring that we are able to get analytics, we are able to get data, we are able to track which child has not been vaccinated, and we are able to send reminders to their phone call, to their phones, and also track how they are doing. So when the same COVID application can be adopted for different kind of vaccinations, the similar solutions can be deployed anywhere in the world. So that makes it a simple case of easy use, adaptation, and giving it to the global public digital goods repository. Similarly, the Diksha platform. And the Diksha platform is benefiting millions of students across India. There's so much of learning is happening. And I wonder if Diksha was not there, what would have happened to learning during the pandemic, the 2 years of pandemic when we had schools shut. Most students did rely on the Diksha for their continued learning. And now the same Sunbird platform on which Diksha runs is being adapted even for the Karmayogi Bharat platform, for the iGov platform, through which through online courses will be hosted on that platform, which can be used for training government servants also. So again, something which works for school kids can also be adapted depending on the kind of content that is there for training government servants. And if this thing can be done here, then it can also play a role in skilling, it can play a role in IEC activities of various other departments. Like farmers, can we have digital content which farmers can access on a similar platform, and the similar applications can also be given to other countries for as an offering to digital public goods repository. And we have been in fact on 4th of July only our Prime Minister launched indiastack.global, which is a portal which showcases all our key digital public goods. I think there are 12 projects which have been showcased there, Diksha included, along with Aadhaar, DigiLocker, UPI, eSanjeevani, and other projects. And what it does is that it serves as a single one point stop for where people from any country, any community can come and look at how these projects have been implemented, look at their documentation, look at the GitHub links, and also learn how to get in touch with the concerned entity which is leading the implementation of this project in India, so that it can be customized and adopted that. And this portal has been made available in not only English, but also French, Spanish, Russian, and very soon Mandarin, and the Arabic versions will also come in. So all UN languages will be covered. And this has been timed such that we are getting the G20 presidentship this December. So the world will be looking at India and what all India will be offering to the world during the year of G20 presidency. So digital public goods will be one key thrust area in which we will take this lead in order to ensure that we join other countries of the world in trying to enable access to services by using technology. And in this, open source and our digital public goods built with open source technologies, built on interoperable principles, plays a big role. So we stand a lot from gaining within the country, as also helping us get showcase it as a digital diplomacy arm of India, and ensuring that we are able to communicate with the greater world and ensure that these projects are adopted by not only India but other countries of the world also.
Yeah, thank you. And I think those two examples you gave of how CoWIN is being now repurposed for vaccination, and how Diksha, which I didn't know is going to be built upon for Mission Karmayogi, are great examples that show the power of the DPG approach. Because essentially, instead of building another platform from scratch, you're going to leverage all the useful elements of these, including all the gains which have been had by learning over the years, and hopefully build something which is scalable from the word go, cost effective, efficient, etc., etc. The fantastic example. The other thing I remember from CoWIN, you will remember, Abhishek ji, is because it was an open source, some of the bugs that were there were actually pointed out by developers and were then corrected, such as the date of birth, I think, was one of those issues. So again, that shows the power of this approach. So I wanted to ask you specifically on the open source point, right? Because I think a lot of the audience here are open source evangelists. How is the use of open source evolving in government? And I know you and I have written something on this in the past as well. But do you see it becoming powerful, becoming almost like standard for usage in government? And what are the barriers, and how might we remove them?
Yeah, very relevant question. Like on paper and in principle, Government of India swears by open source. There is a policy which says that open source and open standards will be the preferred way of implementation of projects. And there are many key projects which are like being implemented using open source, whether it's the DigiLocker project or the DIVOC vaccination project or the Diksha or Aadhaar. So there are use of open source in many large scale government projects has been there. But still, there has always been some resistance in certain corners of the government when open source is recommended or proposed, and there are several reasons for that. First and foremost is lack of actual understanding of what free and open source is. Very often, when we talk to states and some departments within Government of India, they think that free and open source is something which is free, as in doesn't come with any cost. And when they start implementing and some cost comes in, then they say that why am I going for cost? So this free means basically that anybody is free to look into the code and adapt it and use it, and free as not in the commercial terms. So that is a misconception that we have been trying to clarify to many government departments, and that's very essential. Number two is lack of capacity within the government, because again, people feel that, and many tech arms of the government feels that, especially entities like NIC, is that when I'm dealing with an open source community who will be looking at my code and who will be suggesting changes or improvements in the code, do I have the capacity within our own teams to be able to respond to that? And very often some technical teams think that any code push by a college student, to those who have participated here, or by a youngster or young techie, will reflect on their competence as a developer, as a coder. So this mindset change is required, that when the community suggests something, it's for the larger improvement of the project, and we should not take it as an evaluation of our own capabilities. So this is again a attitudinal shift that we are working on. Like, we should not always think that we have done a mistake. If somebody says that if on the CoWIN platform, if somebody suggested some improvement, or on Arogya Setu, if somebody suggested an improvement, or DigiLocker, if somebody suggests an improvement, it's for our benefit. It's not that we did something wrong. There is always a better way of doing things, and as coding evolves. So that is required. Third is that even the projects which are third challenge, which for open source adoption, is that very often when we bid out projects to system integrators, we follow the tendering process and all. And sometimes the system integrators who bid for projects, they push proprietary softwares very often. And if they are able to push a proprietary software, which ultimately is able to give me the same final outcomes and same SLAs, and is at a lower cost, then it becomes a problem to push for open source software there. So we need to also ensure that we are able to have system integrators and bidders who put forward bids and tender in proposals, and they recommend open source software. And very often this happens because many system integrators or big tech companies within India, big software developers, they also do not have very strong open source teams within them. So that also becomes a problem. And another thing is that, in fact, what we are observing in projects like Diksha and even iGot, the Karmayogi platform, is that the Sunbird is a beautiful platform. It's there, but the number of developers who understand Sunbird or who can work on Sunbird is so limited. We just have a couple of companies who are dealing with that. So the relative advantage, the advantage of open source is that you are able to dip into a large pool of developers. So when that doesn't happen and we are limited to a few companies or few developers, then again we are faced with a talent crunch. So how do we ensure that we work through such challenges, or work through colleges
Did we lose Abhishek ji? We can give him another. Well, he'll probably come back. Let's wait for a. Rahul, I was wondering till he comes back if you had, because he was making some very interesting points on how the developer community has to also. I noted two very interesting things. One, that it should not really be so much about, hey, look, I'm the cool guy who pointed out that bug piece. And the second is the, creating a greater, ecosystem of people who can actually use and build on these things. I was wondering if you had any reflections on both those points. Can't hear you.
Now you're not audible.
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear
I'm
me?
sorry, did I drop out?
Yes, you dropped out briefly. In
At
the
what
meantime,
point? I was speaking.
Yeah, no, we heard your, I think we heard your points, and then towards the end. And, I was just reflecting, Abhishek ji, on the two of your specific points, which I thought were very interesting. One was the fact that developer to also change attitude a little bit in terms of, it's not, hey, I'm the cool guy in the room who pointed out this bug, but actually coming with a mindset of, we're all trying to improve something which is a collective good. And then the other was this whole developer ecosystem being very important, because especially for GovTech projects is, you need, it's your neck on the line, right, when you're procuring. And so you can't rely on some very limited or unclear developer ecosystem when things need to change in your thing. And I was just going to ask Rahul if he had some reflections on both those points that you made. Rahul, go ahead.
Just one quick point there. I would say that was exactly the reason Code for GovTech was started. And we just analyze how are other communities developing. So you see the Linux Foundation, you see Apache, you see a lot of these, and you see Google Summer of Code, MLH, a bunch of mentorship programs really behind these. So while we do a lot of hackathons in India, we don't have enough mentorship programs. And that is why the source of Code for GovTech, that is why the idea started off saying, can we help mentor each other? And if each one of us just mentor 5 others, the community just expands exponentially very quickly. And that's the goal here. That's why you see a lot of new Sunword contributors part of this group now, just formed over the last couple of months. Over to you, Varad.
Great. That's why I asked you that question. I knew you would give that answer. So Abhishek ji, coming back to you, I think the one you already mentioned, the IndiaStack.global and the G20 presidency. It's very heartening to see that many countries are now in the process of learning from or adopting from India's learning. Countries like Sri Lanka, Philippines, Indonesia, I believe, are adopting DVOC for their vaccination programs. Of course, there's MOSIP, a modular open source ID platform at IIIT Bangalore for identity management, which was originally inspired by Aadhaar, is being adopted by Morocco, Philippines, Ethiopia, and I think advanced conversations with many other countries. And so India is starting to make its mark globally on the whole DPG agenda. And I know India has recently also agreed to join the Digital Public Goods Alliance, DPGA. So these are all great steps. If you could just share a broader perspective on how you see India's role evolving in the GovTech ecosystem globally over the next few decades.
See, you have covered most of the points. See, like there are many countries who expressed interest in our digital public goods. And when we look at these countries, some countries you have named, but there are other countries, the countries of the developed world who are also looking at India's digital public goods. Like, for example, France is looking at adopting the UPI system. The countries in the West Europe are also in the US is, I think Google had made a request to the White House that they also need something like UPI here. And in forums, in international forums that we have been interacting with, ITU has set up a GovStack initiative in which they are also trying to build up a digital public goods repository from across the world. So in that forum also, every such community is looking at India to be one of the major contributors of digital public goods. And when we do that, we not only give them the code, but we also kind of share our experience in implementing such projects at population scale. Because any solution, it's not a pilot. The project that we are offering to the world, it's not a POC or a pilot. They are full-blown projects which have been used by billions or millions of people, and they have worked here. So that way, the trust and the faith in the solutions which India has developed is much greater. And this is one sector that can help us reach out to many countries, and it will ultimately result in value, not only from the diplomacy point of view, wherein India is giving something to the developed world also, along with the developing countries, but it also ultimately result in a lot of value for Indian IT companies, startups, developers, who would ultimately get an opportunity to scale up these projects globally. So it's a win-win situation for the entire world, and more so for India, which will ensure that we have been known traditionally as an IT superpower, as provider of services to the world, to the corporate world, to the big tech, to the big companies across the world. We are running their financial systems, we are running their IT applications. But to get an opportunity to provide these services for public services and for government initiatives will be a big plus for India. So the G20 Secretariat, the Ministry of External Affairs, the various divisions there, the Americas division, there is a Summit for Democracy planned in December, in which also we are proposing to partner with France to host a cohort on India's digital public goods. So that will be another forum that will happen. The OECD is organizing conferences in which they are asking Indian digital product public goods to be showcased there. So there is a huge market to be explored. But yes, we need to ensure that our systems become more open. All our public systems should be available on OpenForge, which is our GitHub, our national GitHub, or on GitHub repositories. And we learn to engage with developer community, organize events like Code for GovTech, partner with companies like Samagra who are building open source solutions, and ensure that together we build up a community in which, whether you are a developer from within the government or companies associated with the government, or from student community or private tech companies, we all form a community on these open forums and work together for building scalable solutions which can serve the world.
Yeah, I think that's right. The one analogy I like to think that the demand we are seeing is like, it's almost India to the world is going from a startup to a growth phase company. How do you think, and right now, of course, there are requests that come, and, people like you and others in the government help. But how might we do this more institutionally? Like, Estonia has this eGovernance Academy for a long time, which has essentially become their arm to do this globally. Is there something like that you are thinking of?
Yes, the India Stack.global is precisely that initiative, because I remember, like, in the month of June, I was in a international CIO conference, and wherein I was presenting our solutions, and the countries, the other CIOs who were there from the UK, from the US, from Estonia, from Ukraine or Indonesia, all of them asked me, where can I find details of these projects? And I had to go to the UID website to show about UID, to NPCI for UPI, to DigiLocker for this, to Diksha for Diksha. There's not a common platform on which all the projects were showcased. So after I returned from there, we set up a team, a project group within MeitY, in NEGD, and we set up the portal IndiaStack.global. And IndiaStack.global is also a team which will be the one point where anyone can come and make a request for any project, and then we will route it to the concerned project leads which are developing, which are the prime implementers, or which are the leads who have been involved with that. So when we did that India Stack Knowledge Exchange as part of the Digital India Week from 6 to 10 July, we got leaders, like we got people like Pramod, who had developed Aadhaar, Dilip Asbe from UP, from NPCI and all, who actually made those presentations, who explained what these projects are, how it can be adopted, who can be replicated. So so India Stack.global will be the institutional setup which will provide this support to anyone who is trying to leverage India Stack. And Government of India's backing will be there, MEA's partnership will be there, in order to ensure that we are actually able to realize what we are planning to.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. I know Gayatri will soon ask us to conclude this section, but I have to ask you one more question, which is really about the students here. India has such a strong pool of engineering talent, as you yourself have been one in your young days, but with lakhs of students graduating from premier institutes every year. And the current talent pool often rushes towards opportunities and startups and corporates, etc. While this trend has begun to change, how might we attract more of India's young talent to contribute to the GovTech ecosystem, so that we can unlock impact much more for millions of Indians?
See, like the initiative that you guys have launched, this GovTech code for GovTech is a good example. We do that within NEGD and Digital India Corporation. What we do is that we have a continuous internship program that we run, and at any given point of time, more than 100 odd interns from across engineering colleges, developers, coders who work with us on various projects. In fact, myscheme.gov.in, which was also launched in 4th July, a lot of development work for that project was done by our interns. And our internship program runs like that. Like people work, they would get to work on DigiLocker, on Umang, on MyScheme, on IndiaStack.global, and almost 20 to 25% of those who intern with us end up joining us. So it becomes like a means for us to engage with young developers across the country, and it also becomes a very easy and convenient way of us to assess their coding skills and help us recruit people. Because today the one single biggest challenge that we are facing in all our projects is the lack of full stack developers and lack of coders, because the demand has gone so big. So if we are able to get quality people through this means, through such hackathons or through our internship program, it benefits us a great deal. So we look forward to partnering with all the colleges which had applied for this. In fact, I will get a list and I will write to them about our internship scheme. And the people who are wanting to work challenging projects where they will get to work on something which will be rolled out across the country, like the Poshan Tracker project, which is used by almost 1.2 million Anganwadi workers with 10 crores beneficiaries. So such projects gives a lot of satisfaction to the developers and coders also, and it will help us also in getting the right people there. So I think if we follow those two models, it will ensure that we are able to sustain this interest in GovTech projects apart from the other technology projects which they anyway get opportunities for.
Fantastic. I think that's a great call to action. So to all the students who are watching this event, as you can tell, there are lots of problems to solve. There's a lot of energy both within government and amongst the broader ecosystem, Samagra, and all the mentors here, etc., who are working. And so do take this opportunity with both hands and leave your imprint on the future of India, I would say. Thank you, Abhishek ji, for joining this event. And thank you to the organizers. I just want to re-emphasize that this is such a win-win kind of a project. On the one hand, harnessing the energy, power, enthusiasm of our youth to solve big societal problems using tech, and at the same time, giving our young innovators an experience and joy of working on India's GovTech challenges. And I hope this is the start of a movement. Today is the start of a movement where not only can this program be scaled in its future avatars, but the idea of creating such a bridge between students and government can be taken forward in many other areas. So thank you, Abhishek ji, and back to you, Gayatri.
Thank you, Varad. It was an absolute pleasure. I will be joining from my phone because I'm traveling to the airport, so I will be connected, but not on the laptop. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Abhishek ji. Thank you for sharing your very valuable perspective on digital public goods and how India is now well placed to shape the conversation around DPGs globally. I would also like to thank Varad for steering this conversation so well and bringing forward discussion points which has given all of us, particularly the contributors, a lot to think about, research and take encouragement from. We will now move on to the demo showcase by the C4GT 2022 contributors. I would like to invite Rahul Kulkarni, Chief Technologist at Samagra, to moderate the same.
Thank you very much, Gayatri. Varad, Abhishek ji, it's always an absolute treat to hear you speak, and you truly brought out all the different realities and opportunities in the world of GovTech open source. So today, welcome everyone to this section of the finale, which is the demo showcase by the contributors, the real highlight of the evening, where we're really eager to see what our contributors have created. For this, let me invite a very august group of panelists here that we have today with us. And in any project, any domain, you always have foundational pillars, people who work silently behind the scene, these experts, geniuses, gurus that toil behind the scenes with their brilliance You may not see their names in the outside world, but believe me, a lot of real things get done behind the scenes with folks like these, actually thinking, creating, building things as we go about our regular lives. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the panel today. We have Gandhali Samant, Kiran Anandampillai, and Puneet Joshi. And let me quickly introduce each one of those of our great panelists here today. Gandhali Samant is a director at Microsoft and recently transitioned from a role as director at GitHub. And she has been the force behind a lot of the GitHub Indian innovations that you see out there on the platform. Gandhali has spent over 20 years in technology, worked in several roles, right from principal engineering manager at Microsoft, then director for enterprise advocacy, now director of digital and app innovation. So when you think of open source, it's not just about the best coding. It's also about evangelizing that coding. Otherwise, you run into problems that Abhishek ji was so well articulating, which is, hey, if you have something open source, but nobody knows about it, nobody actually works on it, then what's the use of that open source? And Gandhali is exactly that combination of advocacy and engineering talent, which we see actually now coming to force and with platforms that we use. And so all of the work of this event and most open source projects are all on GitHub. So we are thankful for all the work that she has been doing and look forward to her guidance in the coming years. So welcome, Gandhali, to this event.
Thanks, Rahul.
Great. Kiran Anandampillai, Kiran has a very, very exciting journey, something that's truly inspirational. Started off at Infosys. Infosys spun off a company called OnMobile, and it was one of the very first extremely successful IPO-driven companies out of India. And Kiran was a vice president of technology, director of engineering, played a variety of roles there. And then post-IPO, steering it towards success, then got into healthcare, did a lot of telemedicine experiments on the ground. Kiran, you hear about Kiran's stories, never from Kiran himself, but from many others that, who have worked with Kiran. And you really see how Kiran has learned healthcare from grounds up, really sitting in that van, figuring out what does it take to help someone who has critical care needed in a remote village where nothing is getting connected. A lot of expertise in terms of healthcare is built on the ground. And then after that, he started Drishti, which he is the CEO of a social impact eye care chain in Karnataka. But most importantly, I think we all know Kiran as the technology advisor at the National Health Authority. A lot of the UHI things that you see, Universal Health Interface, a lot of the changes, a lot of the backbone of what you see as COVIN, all the infrastructure that's built towards it. Kiran has been a primary force driving, architecting, guiding things with always his very silent demeanor and a slight smile, but with very, very powerful insights and anecdotes and advice to get the open source things that we, as we actually use them today. He's really, his passion is coming from that belief that setting up right technology building blocks can help really leapfrog India into this next generation healthcare vertical. So I think we're really, really privileged to have Kiran with us. Thank you so much for being
Thanks,
here.
Rahul. Thank you so much for the kind words.
Great. And we also have with us Puneet Joshi. Again, unsung hero, just a genius working behind the scenes to make this magic happen. You heard how many times MOSIP was referred in today's conversation. And so for those who don't know, MOSIP is the equivalent of Aadhaar. So Aadhaar for India. And everyone kept asking, hey, how do you get Aadhaar in my country? How do I get Aadhaar in my country? And that's how MOSIP was born. Now, Puneet is the principal architect of MOSIP. 25 years in technology, specifically software development, very much hands-on, is as hands-on an engineer as it can get. He's not left the engineering thing in favor of management. He's one of those true engineers at heart and continues to be. And that's why, he's able to dive into true state-of-the-art machine learning. Very few people, when we think of machine learning, everyone can hit a run button, right, and use some algorithm already existing on training data sets. Very few people understand the math behind it, understand what it means to tweak these algorithms. Puneet's one of those very few. So a lot of deep learning experience, machine learning experience in smart surveillance, retail analytics, bunch of startups led, created, and now the principal architect at MOSIP, where he's really spearheading all the software development, ensuring MOSIP, when Aadhaar was being created, it was about how do you get Aadhaar to run across, all the different states that we have in India. Puneet, when he's thinking about MOSIP, he's thinking about how do I get Aadhaar, MOSIP to run across 200 plus countries across the world with very different challenges, very different problems. So it's truly an honor to have you with us, Puneet. Thanks for being there.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the generous introduction, and delighted and honored to be here.
Thanks, Puneet. And I'd also like to introduce you to Mr. Sanjay Jain. So Sanjay hasn't been able to be with us. He had to travel to London today. But Sanjay has been a strong supporter of Code for GovTech and an inspiration himself. So Sanjay has recorded a video for us, but I'll give you a quick intro about Sanjay. So Sanjay is another one of those geniuses behind the scenes. He's a partner at the Bharat Innovation Fund, invests in early stage IP-driven companies. Is the Chief Innovation Officer at CIE, where he's promoting entrepreneurship, with IIM Ahmedabad. And then he's a founding chair, we talked about MOSIP. He was a founding chair of the technology committee for this modular open source identity platform that's called MOSIP today. And Sanjay has been a volunteer with iSpirit right from early days, which has shaped a lot of key building blocks in India, very active in contributors, especially in the finance sector. And he's really taken on himself to truly evangelize what it means to build open source for Bharat. And so if you haven't, definitely check out Sanjay's Build for Bharat podcast. It covers experts from a variety of areas talking about each of their learnings in terms of what it means to build a Aadhaar, what it means to build a CoWIN, and so on. With that, let me just let's quickly hear Sanjay's message for us, and then we'll get started on the demo showcase.
It is very exciting to see Samagra organize a Code for GovTech program. Globally, there is tremendous excitement around the concept of digital public goods and the promise they hold for improving the lives of millions of people around the world. And more immediately, helping governments make progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. Digital public goods are in the form of software, data sets, AI models, standards, or content that are generally free cultural works and contribute to sustainable national and international digital development. Much of this work has been inspired by the work done in India. However, much remains to be done, and this can only happen if we are able to bring together public-spirited individuals who are able to roll up their sleeves and work with the community and the government. In this regard, Code for GovTech is playing a crucial role by introducing the youth to this concept by actually building public goods that the government can use. I took the opportunity to go through the projects and the code base and was amazed to see the work being done here. Many of these are useful in government citizen engagement, such as the UCI or the URL shortener, or on the education front with Sunbird-related projects. And then there are others at the cutting edge of thinking around identity and access management, like the access control and the competency passbook projects. I'm glad to see the students take up this work, and they'll surely both learn and grow in this business. I would also encourage them to continue to stay engaged and continue to contribute as the projects start getting usage. There's so much more learning to be had from that experience. I thank Samagra for taking up the initiative and the students for rising up to the challenge. I wish you all the very best.
Well, thank you so much, Sanjay. Indeed a pleasure and honor having a message here. So now on, let's move on to the overall showcase. A quick note on the format. We have 3 minutes of showcase per contributor. And we're going to have some mechanism of warning, I think a bell, to kind of ensure that they stick within the time. We unfortunately have to keep it short, otherwise each of these presentations can really be a nice hour-long discussion. To keep it brief as well, what I'll be doing is, calling out 2 panelists out of 3 for any project as the lead panelist for feedback. Randomly chosen, we'll just keep rotating. So I'll just call out your names before the demo starts, so you kind of know that you're on point to give feedback for that particular option. And of course, the third panelist, your feedback for that particular project, very much welcome. You can just put down a message on chat, or of course, have a brief word at the end. So with that, without further ado, let's get into it. The first one is we're going to get into the Shiksha announcements project, and this is done by Hardik. Now, overall at C4GT, right, to give you a little macro level view of what are these projects. At Code for GovTech, our endeavor has been to select open source GovTech projects which our contributors will get that experience of working on live DPGs. All of these projects are built on some or the other building blocks. It may be on Sunbird Inquiry, Sunbird QML, Shiksha, and so on. Working on these has helped our contributors get hands-on coding experience, learn about new software, develop their skills, and most importantly, actually do this to create impact at scale. So the first project that we're going into, this is by Hardik and team, and Hardik has created this project around Shiksha. So Shiksha is a platform, an edtech platform, which consists of modules which enable governments create intuitive end-user experiences in education, especially for NDR compliance. So think of Sunbird as backend building blocks that can mix and match, and you can create a jigsaw puzzle and solutions out of them. We have always been missing the front-end counterpart for it. So what is a front-end experience creator? What is a WordPress for education? What is a React.js for education, if you will? And so Shiksha is that attempt. And based on the Shiksha platform, the Shiksha spec, we have a bunch of projects that contributors have gotten experience with. And let's start with Hardik. Hardik, over to you.
Yeah, thanks Rahul for the introduction. Yeah, let me share the screen. Yeah, is my screen visible? Can someone confirm?
Yeah, go ahead, Hardik. We can see.
Yeah, very good afternoon to the panelists present here. My name is Hardik. I'm from NIT Kurukshetra, and my project is Shiksha CMS and announcements under the mentorship of Ashwin sir. So we see that online education has been largely needed, especially after the COVID pandemic, and especially in the public sector. And that's where NDR architecture steps in. So here is where Shiksha comes into the picture. Shiksha is a digital learning solution for the public school system, which is based on the NDR architecture, which is suggested by the government. So it consists of various modules like notification, attendance, timetable, worksheets, and so on, which are functional in nature. Now, the base for Shiksha is that the repositories are open source and hosted on GitHub. So primarily, there is a front-end repository for the front-end pages that the users see, an admin UI for the configuration, as Rahul said, that it's the WordPress for education. So admin UI serves that purpose, and the back. So I propose to add a CMS and announcements module where in the CMS, you can create and add static pages like landing and FAQ pages composed of various UI blocks, and announcements page as well as the announcements admin module where we can have various features associated with announcements. Let us have a quick look at the announcements page here. So this is the announcements page at the front end. It consists of infinite scroll, various filters, and when you click, you see various additional tags and information associated with any given announcement. There is also an option to change the translation. Now, this is built on the base that Shiksha already existed. This is an overlying module on this existing Shiksha blocks and architecture. This is the admin portal for the announcements module. And when you click on any of these announcements, you're able to edit them, as well as you can create those announcements. Coming to the content pages are composed of various blocks, as we can see, various UI blocks and elements. And these UI blocks can also be configured from the backend by editing a given content page. We currently support rich text, image, and collapsible blocks. Value addition, it enhances inclusivity and knowledge transfer for the users. So the architecture, we use Sura as the backend for content pages and announcements. In the future, we propose to add accessibility options, text-to-speech and font size, regional languages, and role modifications. So the experience by far has been very constructive in C4GT, and the various activities that I was involved in included hosting P2P learning sessions as well as attending by my fellow contributors, learning how to write effective developer documentation, design thinking for GovTech products, and working at scale and interaction with industry experts throughout the cohort. Thanks a lot for this staying with me for the presentation. I wait for your feedback. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you, Hardik. Just a quick note. Gandhali called just now saying she had an emergency, so she needs to drop off to take care of an emergency. Hopefully she'll be back. But in the meantime, then let's go ahead with Kiran and Puneet, who can give feedback to all of our participants. And overall, you've seen the projects. Now you're seeing different snippets of them. What would be great is just to understand, what is your general feedback on the project. Be harsh, tell us what can be improved. So it's learning for all of us, from your perspective. Also, definitely, let's encourage them to ensure that they continue working towards this space that is so nice and fun to be at. So over to you, Puneet. You want to go first, and then Kiran can go.
All right, so that was Hardik and team. Good work, on this project. I have probably a few questions. That one is, I think in your documentation, I'm not sure you have done it, but how this announcement things fits into the overall scheme of things. It'll be good to explain. Even there are so many platforms and these names. It's a lot of confusion on what this is exactly and why was this missing earlier somewhere else. So I think that will really help to know where it fits very well. Other question I have is, do you have like flexibility for all languages here? And that's also one very, very important aspect, especially in India.
Yeah.
Right. So that's, that's important, whether the UI fits into all these languages and everything can be seen properly. Other question I have is regarding announcements. Are these only displayed on the web or they are pushed by other means to the consumers or to the users or whoever's using?
Okay, so for the announcements, this is designed, the system front end is designed to be a PWA, which essentially can be viewed on mobile phones as well. But for the backend, currently it's a web application where the admin UI, you can push the changes and make changes to the announcements, create new announcements, which can be further updated. So,
okay. I mean, my question was whether the announcements can be sent via other mechanisms to the consumers. WhatsApp is an example.
Okay, no, only the web application is supported.
Okay, good job. And as I said, if you could explain how this whole thing fits, that'll be really helpful.
Sure, we'll keep in mind. Thanks, Puneet.
Thanks, Puneet. Kiran, over to you.
No, nothing to add. Yeah, I think great work, Hardik, and I think some of the feedback that Puneet has given, especially on ability to fit for multiple languages. And I think as it's likely that Shiksha is going to be largely going to be used on the mobile. I think a lot of what we see in India in general on front-end usage across is a mobile first interface. So thinking about how, say, notifications can actually be delivered on a mobile would be probably a good, interesting next add. Because if I'll only get it once I log into Shiksha, that's interesting. But can you actually find a way to push that to me on, one of the many approaches that can be taken for letting me know there is something new or interesting in Shiksha? I think that will be a good thing for you to consider for the future.
Sure. Yeah, that's actually a work in progress for Shiksha, the notification model. Push notifications.
Thank you, Kiran. Thanks, Puneet. Thanks, Kiran, for the feedback, and nice work, Hardik. Great work. So next we move on to Siddhant, and so one of the things. So Siddhant's also worked on a Shiksha project, which is around refactoring the front end. So as things evolve, right, as things get clearer, when modular architecture comes into play and gets to a good level, then you need to refactor at the right strategic points. So Siddhant has taken up that difficult job. One of the reasons why we also gave every type of project as part of C4GT, we ensured that it's not always creating the next coolest, I'm going to do blockchain and machine learning on a smart contract and some fancy stuff, all full of jargon. So cool on resume, but not really, meaningful work that's really going to teach you anything. So in C4GT, you see a sprinkling of projects, and one of the toughest projects to actually pull off is a refactoring project. How do you actually take someone else's code, understand it, refactor it, and then create it in a better way that the entire community agrees to? And that's exactly what third-year student Siddhant actually did, and successfully actually accomplished that everyone was really happy with what he created. So over to you, Siddhant. Eager to hear how you pulled it off.
Sure, sir. Are you sharing my screen now?
And as I'm speaking, as I'm introducing the project, please, contributors, please feel free to project your screen and be ready. So we'll save 30 seconds.
All right, is it visible?
Yeah, Siddhant, visible. Go ahead.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I am Siddhant at here, your student at NSUT, and I've been working on the Shiksha Frontend project under the guidance of Ashwin sir. So this is the agenda for my presentation. So I'll be going all these points one by one. So let's get started. So first of all, a little introduction about Shiksha. So Shiksha is basically an edtech product that is built upon the NDR building blocks. So now what were the major goals of this project? The first goal was to migrate to TypeScript. The second one was to refactor the existing components. The third one was to add the storybook documentation, and finally to add the unit testing to make the overall code base much more robust. So for the tech stack we are using in this project, we are using Yerna as the tool for managing the mono repositories. Then we are using React Native base as the component library. And we are using Storybook for the documentation, TypeScript for the language, and Jest for the testing framework. Now for the current modules, we are having these many modules, and I've been mainly working on the attendance and the worksheet module for the refactor. So till the midpoint, I've done these things. I've added the required dependencies, which includes TypeScript, Storybook, and Jest. And I have also managed to, we can say, refactor and migrate the attendance module, and as well as also add the Storybook configuration needed for the React Native base. So after the midpoint, there's one thing I learned, and that was that when we are refactoring, you cannot follow a big bang PR approach. Like you just cannot take a single large chunk of code and refactor it and then just wait for it to be merged. It causes a lot of problems in terms of consistency and review. So after the midpoint, I started a different kind of approach, which was the atomic PR. I would take a very small change, push it as a pull request, and then await its review. I also started to work on the worksheet module and also the Jest for the unit testing. So for some of the highlights, I reduced the overall bulkiness of the code by 60% across worksheet and the attendance module. Now, bulkiness here does not mean the net number of lines, but rather mean the amount of lines on an average in a component. And also successfully managed to merge over 3 PRs in the code base. And I also managed to create a types of configuration that allows JS to also coexist along with TypeScript. Now for a just quick of highlight of like how refactoring has impacted the code, we have the attendance module here. So we are having all these components, right? So after the refactor, I was able to reduce the amount to this much. So we have reduced from 1000 to 339 and so on. And I think it has made the improve the readability of the code as a whole. So for now, quick demo, I'd like to show you the storybook and the Jest. For the storybook, we are basically you can say an interactive copy of each component. So the storybook, the thing about storybook is that it runs separately from the application itself. So anyone who wants to see the component can use it without worrying about coding a single thing. So right now we are having a, you can say calendar bar component, which is interactive. So we can see everything. The documentation is also there, which shows various things like the props and everything. And as for the Jest, I will have to show you how unit testing works. So suppose that we have a simple function to check if a number is prime or not. So suppose I am a developer and try to optimize this algorithm, like by removing this equal to sign. So now when I run the test, we can see that it starts highlighting that it is not working for the composite numbers. So that's why this can basically help us to provide a very stable development process overall. So for the future goals, I would like to continue the refactoring process for other modules and also add documentation and development guidelines to make the development process easier. So that was all from my side. Thank you for this amazing event. I'm waiting back.
Fantastic work, Siddhant. Kiran, you want to give us feedback?
Yeah. So Siddhant, I think great work. I think it takes a significant amount of effort to actually attempt a refactoring and really make it readable. So commendable in terms of the effort that you put in. Quick question. I wasn't very clear when you showed the Just one. It seemed more like a demo, but have you actually built use cases for your refactored modules, or what is it that you are really looking to do then?
So actually, I have made the, you can say, utility functions, which are basically, you can say, small part of the module. So far, they are currently, you can say, under review. So that's why I have not merged them yet or made the testing for them. But as soon as they're merged, I will make the testing.
But in the process of this, you have learned how to use something like Jest to probably test and build unit cases for your refactoring code, refactored code?
Yes, sir. Basically, I've added all the configuration and also learned the ideology you need for making unit tests.
Great, yeah. That's wonderful. Would you like to have a go, Puneet?
Yeah, Siddhant and team, I think this is significant work. As we say, the refactoring is may not look cool to many people. It's a very, very technical job. You have to understand things in much detail, and looking at someone's code is not easy, trust me. And refactoring, I think, is an ongoing activity in any project, by the way. We never design everything perfectly. So refactoring is a stage which happens in every project. However you design, certain design never works that way. You have to refactor. And I think what you have done is significant. One point I have is, I mean, you mentioned refactor as a broad term, but you could also specifically mention whether you also look at modularity, that, you know, making the code modular itself is a one kind of a refactoring, other than the reducing the number of lines and cleaning it up. But I think more and more you should also look at how to make it more modular with interfaces defined, so that, you know, it's like a plug and play. The module can be pulled out or be replaced by something else, right? That'll be a great refactoring work in the future for any project, I would say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll keep in mind. Thank you.
Very nice work, Siddhant. You know, I always say we always learn from you youngsters, and I've never seen a better presentation about a refactor project. Very, very articulate. You really showed A to B very nicely. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next up we have Akshay and Kanika. Akshay and Kanika have worked on a project called YAUS, which is yet another URL shortener. So you may think, hey, why yet another URL shortener, right? There's so many out there. And so in government projects, we always struggle with that. So we start with Bitly or something equivalent, then run out of the free account, then even paid account, you know, try it out, but then it gets too expensive at population scale. And so even most of the projects out there that are URL shorteners are not built for population scale. They're not very, very horizontal scalable. And so finally we said, okay, let's bite the bullet. What does it mean? Not just to create a URL shortener, that's easy, but what does it mean to ensure that those numbers that are coming out of that are actually meaningful? Because in the government, that is most critical. You just don't want, you know, what does it mean to get granular understanding of activity, interaction, basis that. The other thing in this project is also getting two people to work together, two people to collaborate, two people who have not met each other to actually work together, collaborate on a project, and, you know, share the PRs, distribute them, peer code review and all of that. So getting that experience was another goal of this particular project. So over to you, Akshay and Kanika. Go ahead.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, we can see your screen. Go ahead.
Okay. So, hey everyone, my name is Kanika. I'm pursuing BTech from ABS Institute of Technology and working on the project YAUS.
Hey everyone, my name is Akshay Sharma, pursuing BCA from Maharashtra Tourism Institute, Delhi, and working on project YAUS. YAUS, yet another URL shortener. YAUS is an open source service for generating shortened URLs. YAUS is an app through which we are trying to build an independent open source platform which can be further used by many communities. Now, user will be able to keep track of all the static of their link, be it a daily or weekly link creation with customized link data. YAUS can be further used to create protected and authenticated short link by leveraging centralized access control.
Okay, so as we know that if it comes to government, there are many of the security factors which we have to take care of. Everything should be very much secured. Everything should be very much authenticated. Let's take an example of an hackathon. So SIH is a hackathon which gives opportunity to students to showcase their skills and contribute in nation building. Now, once the hackathon gets over, now it's time for all the awards, cash prizes, and the e-coupons. Now, if the government is sending those e-coupons, they have to make sure that those links are protected. Now, this is where YAUS comes into play. In YAUS, what we can do is the links which we are sending as e-certificates or e-coupons, they are highly authenticated by the centralized control system. And also thinking of the wider perspective, government can also use this feature as a payment gateway for electricity, water, property, and all the other stuff that includes the payment process. And as we heard from Abhishek sir, it could be used for COVID vaccines, for sending out the links, polio vaccines, and all those stuff which are related to links, sending of links. The tech stack which we have used is React.js, Swagger APIs, and Fusion Auth APIs. If we discuss about the flows, we have used the AndDesign library for the UI, and also the Fusion Auth APIs for the authentication, which means the sign up and the sign in.
The whole setup is made using React.js library for a fast server-side rendering. Here is the link creation page that uses Swagger API. It helps user build, document, test, and consume RESTful web services. Moving ahead, we have the link creation page and the recent activities page. Now it's time for a quick demo of prototype.
Okay, so here you can see that this is the registering page, which means a new user can register here. I have done some arbitrary name, and let's just sign up. Okay, now Akshay will take over. Yes, Akshay, can you please share your screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's visible. Okay, now let's take a case of link creation. So our app, yours is something which is related to link creation only. So Akshay got selected in SIH, and this was the link which was sent to all the participants of the hackathon. Now it's practically impossible to send this whole link to all the individual participants, as it is not the most secure way and not the most convenient way. Here where yours comes into play. Now Akshay will tell you that how it actually works. Yes, Akshay.
Okay, first we have naming our link section. We cannot move ahead. It is mandatory to write some name of link, that is SIH. We have a unique ID that is initialized every time user comes. That is a unique, and it can generate up to millions of ID per second. We will paste the link, move ahead. We have analytic tags for features, channels, campaigns, etc. We have a redirect tags. If app is not installed, then user will be redirect to a web store, open a app store, or etc. Now here is the link database, that is add the data you want to pass to your app via this link. Moving ahead, we have social media tags. Like when a link is set over a social media platform, it generally show a previous of title, description, and image. Second, third, fourth steps are optional. We can click on done button. Here is our short link generated. We will paste this link, and we are redirect to the link where we want to. So now moving ahead with the bulk link creation use case. So suppose a teacher want to take an online test for 50 students and want to tag the student if the student open that link or not. Here's the demo that hey student, it's time for a test. I will be sending a test link of Sunbit QML player to all the students, and I will be keeping track of each student using certain link that if someone open that link or not. So it's compulsory for all, and attendance will be given on the basis of that. So let's see the demo of this. If you have create bulk link tab, we will open a file. Here you can see the credential of student, that is name, email ID, URL, and UTM source, campaign, sort URL. Okay, now teacher will click on submit button and export the file. Our file is exported in XLS format. Let's format it. Okay, now you can see each student have a unique link. Clicking on this link, we are redirect to Sunbuild QML player. Here you can see a test link. And we can use this in many ways. Yeah, Kanika.
Yes. Okay. So now this is the first page, which is the first page a user will be seeing. Here is the dashboard. You can see a line chart, which will actually show the number of links which has been generated like on a monthly basis. As you can see, February has 62 links created and so on. Now, if you go down, there's a table here, which will actually show, let's read a row here. So this link, http yours.xyz SIH was made in this month. It has 82 number of views. Installs is something which we are working on. It has 335 number of clicks and this much number of opens. So the show statistics button will actually show the specific data for a specific URL. We are having two charts here. For the monthly one, we have a line chart, and then for the weekly ones, we have a pie chart. Now this chart will actually show the number of click rates which you are having on your URL. So you can have a close statistics. Okay, let's close this. Let's move on to link manager. So as we saw from the teacher test example, now the teacher can actually keep a check that which link was created on which date, and also the number of clicks and the number of opens to check that is it matching with the strength of the students or not. It also has a search bar so that the user can actually search for the links with the filters. Let's go to recent activities. Now, we are hoping that the yours will be used by some of the organizations and companies. So it's very important for an organization to know that which employee has actually made a particular link. So we have this portal here, which will actually show the credentials of the user who has made the link, on which date, and the title of it. You can also go on create your link so that you will be redirected to link part. All this data which you can see is coming from the APIs which we have built from scratch. And we also have a sign out functionality. So the user can sign out and also sign in. Okay, now let's move to SDK. So as you all must be knowing that SDK is a software development kit. We want to support third-party plugins and integrations of yours, all the APIs. So we are actually on the beta stage of building it. We have actually built it personally, like it could be used for internal projects, for our personal use. We have used the the API library, which actually uses the open spec definition of the API for building the SDK. So it would be soon available for public use too.
So now let's discuss the future scope of yours to authenticate short links generated from yours using centralized access control that is part of C4GT program, creating bulk links using SDK, adding E2E end-to-end test for project which could set up the project for external contribution by other developers in India, to provide link tracking and analytics, app-based deep link redirection, Android and iOS platform.
So if we talk about the experience, we both are students and we were lucky enough to have those real-time industry experience through Code for GovTech. It has really played a very important role in this whole coding period, those bottlenecking sessions whenever we used to have any error, or they also gave new ideas of working on a project. We learned a lot new things, working in a collaborative way, what are the needs of digital goods, and heard from a lot of GovTech leaders. So our overall experience was really informative.
We are looking forward to be torchbearers for this project.
Guys, please close within like literally 10 seconds. You're way over time.
Yeah. We are looking forward.
Audible though. We're trying to get the bell actually audible, but yeah, 10 seconds.
Okay, we are looking forward to be a torchbearer for this project and encourage more contribution to make our vision into a reality. Here's our social handle. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. We would love to hear all the feedbacks.
Great. Thanks for this, team. Very nicely done. Kiran, you want to go ahead with feedback?
Yeah, sure. I think it's outstanding. Yeah, especially if you guys, this seems to be something you guys started from scratch.
Yes.
From a concept, and then you brought it all the way here. I think this is really impressive in terms, and I tell you that I can see many use cases across health stack that I work in. There is definitely a need for something like this, but I'm also very impressed by, I think both of you are in different cities and you seem to have collaborated remotely to kind of make this happen. And I think that's also extremely impressive given what I'm seeing. In fact, I was looking through this and I was thinking, what else do they need? But it's almost very comprehensive. It's something that I can see definitely people pick up and adopt. So great job there. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Excellent work. I mean, this is it's quite end to end. From scratch to take it to to the SDK and UI. By the way, I'm very impressed with the UI. So hard to, it's hard to find good, clean, well done user interface, and I think I like that the most probably. Of course, the shortened URL has its advantages and so on, but the UI work is an excellent work. I think what you could do is probably educate others to how to use this for their use cases. So again, I would think, okay, how do I use it? What is the benefit it gives? How does it compare with Google Analytics? If what is all that? I think of some blogs on what this is about and how you can use it as open source. I think the utility and value of that, if you could bring out with blogs, this is excellent work. I think it's quite a lot of work also. I can see that. Very impressed with UI, by the way. I'm always about UI.
Thank you so much, sir.
Great work there from both the panelists. So great work, Akshay and Kanika. All those late nights, all those refactoring, rewriting, all those things have really borne fruit. So fantastic job. Next up, we go into another project, again, a collaborative exercise. This is for another DPG called Unified Communication Interface. So Unified Communication Interface was a product, a platform for how do you create streamlined communication, multi-channel, multimodal communication, especially for chatbots. And how do you actually power things? So UCI is something that Samagra as an organization with a couple of other contributors created, then contributed into Sunbird. So now that's part of Sunbird UCI. And now what Arshpreet and Nilesh have done is take it to the next level. So while it supported WhatsApp, Telegram, SMS, and others right now, what Arshpreet and Nilesh have done is actually created a standalone PWA experience for a chatbot. So not everyone would need to have WhatsApp installed. Also, lately what has happened is WhatsApp has started charging for chatbots, and that has just rendered it prohibitive for large-scale population use cases. So this is an attempt at offering yet another channel for governments to use, especially when interacting with citizens in a two-way model. So over to you, Arshpreet and Nilesh. We can see your screen. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So hello everyone. I'm Arshpreet Singh. I'm from Delhi, and I'm currently in third year pursuing my BTech in CST from IIT Bhilai. And my friend Nilesh, also from Delhi, is in fourth year, pursuing his BTech in CSC from VIT Vellore. Me and Nilesh have been working on UCI web channel under the mentorship of Shruti and Chakshu. We both have been handling the front end part of this project. Our aim was to create a better user experience and interface which will make this product easy and fun to use. The tech stack that is being used in this project is Next.js with TypeScript. So to introduce the project, just let's understand the problem statement. Let's first all agree that the government faces a lot of situations where they need to share information, be it to the citizens about their status of the passport, or maybe communicate with other government departments. Therefore, they require a common and good communication channel, similar to what we use every day, that is WhatsApp and maybe Telegram, but better in some factors such as cost, as told by Rahul, and transparency as well, which is provided by open source.
Yeah, so keeping this problem in mind, UCI is being developed. So UCI is a notification infrastructure, a service managing multi-channel notification with a single API, and the UCI web channel is a communication channel which is running on the UCI, which is more inclined towards the government usages. So basically, we can customize it according to our requirements, and therefore the aim of UCI web channel is to build a cost-effective, open source, and customizable communication channel. Yeah, so when we had started with this project, we had a very basic React application built using the plain JavaScript, and we could only talk to Diksha bot on it. Using APIs were there, but UCI APIs were there, but they weren't being used. So so this was the base app look before we started working on it.
So we basically had to work from scratch. So here are some of the major contributions that we have implemented so far. That is one-to-one chatting. We can chat to other people as well who are using this app. Worked on creating better designs on Figma as well as implementing the same. We also added OTP-based authentication system, and we also migrated to Next.js, which is framework based on React.js, which makes it very easy to deploy. And we also migrated to TypeScript for better development experience. Just to quickly go through all the features that we have implemented so far. These are all of them. We'll try to see many of them in the demo itself. And these are the final designs that we have created on Figma. Considering the amount of users on mobile phones are more than that on desktop, as we already talked about, we wanted to create a responsive web app. For that, we created two designs, first for the web view and another for the phone view. So let's now quickly move on to the demo. So as you can see, I was talking about the responsive web design. This is the from a phone view, which users will see if they're using this app from the mobile phone. And this is the web view when you'll see from the desktop itself. And now he will show a one-to-one chat application that we have implemented. So these two windows basically represents two different users who are messaging each other. Yeah. The next thing that we would like to show is the persistent storage. Basically, before our contribution, the messages were lost whenever we tried to reload, but not anymore. We are basically now saving all the messages in your local storage, which will allow you to get those messages back. Yeah. And we also have implemented a clear chat button, which will allow you to delete the chat messages for a user itself. Some of the accessibility features like changing theme is also there. You can also add wallpaper itself. You can also change font as well. Yeah, thanks. Well, let's go back to the presentation. Now our plan of action doesn't get over with C4GT. When we say that these projects are going to be used by millions, then it has to be a worthy product, and it should provide some features which no one else does. And some of these features we have planned for that are shown here. We are planning to integrate QML player to UCI web channel. Now, what do I mean by that? Basically, QML player stores all the questions which are used in Shiksha app. Now, what we are planning to do is convert the QML spec to X form, which is basically used by UCI, and communicate the questions and answers with UCI web channel, which allows students to take assessments, attendance, worksheets, etc. all at one place, which will be great, I guess.
And the next is multiple language support. We want to have the functionality to translate all the messages to different languages, so that which will allow the variety of users to easily use this application. And finally, we are thinking of an embeddable library which will allow other applications to use our application according to their requirements.
We don't just plan on implementing more features, we also want more developers to come and play around with the code base as it is open source and give their own gist to it. And for that, we have created a lot of good first issues for say, and asked some of our juniors to come and try to solve them, and they have, and they were really happy about it. And finally, these are some of the learnings we have had from this experience. We have learned what it means to work in a community. In the inauguration event, one of the keynote speakers, I forgot the name, had asked all the contributors to learn shamelessly. And I think we tried our best doing the same and hope to continue this habit as well. We also got the taste of working on an open source project, which was amazing, and obviously increased the number of friends. This may be the finale event of C4GT, but this is a start to a bigger cause. Hence, we would like to stick to this project and try our best to keep making it better. With that, I would like to thank C4GT for this wonderful experience. And that's all from our side. We are open for the feedback.
Fantastic work, Ashpreet and Nilesh. Really, really great job. So, Puneet, Kiran, ready for feedback from you?
Very, very interesting project. Great work. I think, having this UCI and of course, the version which is both on desktop and mobile phone. One question I had, this UCI, were you involved with the definition of the interface, or the interface is given to you and you have implemented over it?
The interface, the base app that we have shown you, that was what was given to us, and we had to implement over it. But later in the end, when we were creating over it, we actually wanted to create something else. Like the UI didn't turn out to be as good as we wanted. So in the end, we tried to create as much as the UI we want from the scratch, and then implemented the same in the original project.
Okay. Yeah, that little bit confusion on whether and where are the UCI specs available? They are available in open source for want to follow and develop their own apps. That's also the one question. It should be well documented.
Okay.
Like various players can develop their apps if the interface is defined, right? So that's one thing. The other question, honestly, I have is related to privacy and security of data. So is there a server involved? Where is this data going? Privacy and security of the data if the communication is happening on a channel. Have you taken care of that in some ways or plan to take care of it?
Yeah, we are actually planning on it. The communication between two users is not right now not encrypted, but we exactly want that to be done as soon as possible. The communication is done by the UCI APIs that were provided to us during our contributions. So we are using that to communicate with the users.
Great. I think this is a large project. If you look at it, if you really want to scale it, the work scaling is a different level of work, and that'll be very interesting. Great job, guys.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Kiran?
Yeah, no, good job, folks. I think really happy. I'm also quite happy to see that this provided you an opportunity to play around with new tools like Figma. So share us a bit, what was it like to use Figma for you to do the UIs, and how much effort was there to translate whatever you could do there into actual code?
So actually, like I always thought like front end part was something which was very complex to me. Like I always wanted to know like how people know that they want to create this. And then I was introduced to Figma. Like I never knew a single word about designing, and I started from scratch during this project itself. Created multiple designs, got reviewed, and those reviews were harsh. Then started again. But like, or honestly, Figma being free tool it's amazing. Like it has so much power. Like I could even create animations over it. Like when we actually use a website, like those animations. So it was amazing.
Great, good learnings.
Wonderful work, Nilesh and Ashpreet. So next up, let's move on to the next project, X-Admin for Sunbird RC. So all of us know Sunbird RC, we love it, registries, credentials, all certificates come through those, registries are getting created through those as we speak across states and so on. But you talk to anyone who's implemented it, and one of the challenges is, oh my God, it's all backend, where's the front end, where are the workflows? And that's a question that we also have had faced. So this is a project by Harshil that actually takes X-Admin, which is an open source contribution built over React Admin, to take that and make it compatible with Sunbird RC. So you can actually have an admin interface for Sunbird RC out of the box. So over to you, Harshil. Would love to hear more.
Hello everyone, my name is Harshil Jani and my C4GT project is about X-Admin generator. I am currently third year student in NIT Surat and the mentors for the project are Shruti ma'am and Chakshu sir. So these are the things which we will be talking about in today's presentation. Let's start with what is Sunbird RC. So basically Sunbird RC is a low code framework when it is open source block. So it can help you in quickly building registries and generating CRUD APIs or even managing the credentials, everything using a set of config files. At the same time, X-Admin is the front end, which is React and Next Step. So it shows the dashboard and you can perform the CRUD operations from the admin. So the problem which we are aiming with this project is that some person who is a non-tech person gets the APIs, CRUD APIs with the help of Sunbird. But when it comes to the front end for it, that is X-Admin. So it needs to be coded. So our solution is an X-Admin generator. You can just like answer some questions and you will get your own set of code. So using the config file, you can modify that code as well. So let's quickly move towards the live demo. So as you can see, currently we are in an empty directory. So here you can write, you create RC admin. So it will ask you first question about what API data provider would you like to use, whether REST, GraphQL or Sunbird. So let's go ahead with Sunburst. Okay, so now it is currently creating the file. So once the files are created, then this is how your admin looks like. So here we have student entity and you can perform all the CRUD operations. You can even create a new entry or okay, so new entry has been created. On the other hand, if your APIs are on some service, then you can even create new entities from here as well. So you can create both ways and also you can delete entries and perform all the CRUD operation. So this everything is handled with the help of this config file. So let's say you want to add another field, let's say a teacher's field. So all you have to do is instead of student, you can pass teacher and label it as teacher. So let's go over here and okay, so now the teacher's field is over here. So when you go to teacher's field and then you decide that you don't need to show the middle name. So you just remove this from the config file and there is no need to worry about React code or the next code, which is being already being generated. So you just remove it. So instead of that, if you need the email, then you can pass email here. And it will show the email. Okay. So we can extend it into the Sunbird RC's generator. The way it generates the API, we can integrate it in a manner that from the schemas itself, we can update the admin and we can make it more generic, and it can also provide monorepo service to an organization. And my C4GT experience was all about learning technologies rapidly with real world use cases. I would like to thank C4GT to provide me this opportunity. Thank you. Now we can move to feedback.
Nice work, Harshil, and thanks for giving that good overview. Kiran?
Yeah, very nice, very interesting tool for sure. Definitely Somebody did a good job on gap identification with Sunbird RC for sure. But one thing, as I was looking through the demo, a couple of things that wasn't very clear to me, and I think maybe as people want to try to adopt your tool, you need to produce a lot more good documentation for your own setup and install. While I think it does seem to simplify the process, I wasn't completely clear about how your config file worked and how that actually translated into the RC on the back end. But I think I like the fact that it seems to be definitely more simpler in now setting it up. And also I think your UI seems to make it quite easy to then navigate further.
Yes, we already have the documentation for it.
Okay, maybe you didn't show it, so I was a little, and I was lost in probably a bit of the demo, but I think great work. Puneet?
Yes, absolutely. We echo Kiran's thoughts here. Any UI work which eases the job is a great work. That is what helps to proliferate, and more and more users can use it easily. So I think in that sense is excellent. Will this be now? Will you contribute this code into the Sunbird RC's repositories, and it becomes one of the components of Sunbird? I think that could be your next step, maybe, right? That's excellent contribution to the whole project of Sunbird, I would say. Yes, better documentation here. I'm sure it would be there in such
just
short time.
posted it, yeah, it's quite good actually. So,
yeah. So just have better documentation on this, and it's excellent.
Like we already have the GitHub wiki page for whole generator.
Cool.
Great work, Harshil. Thanks so much for all your good work and contributions to Sunbird RC. It's going to help a lot. So next up, we have Janvi and Pratyaksh coming up to describe a very interesting project. So generally in the government world, we always think of recommendation engine, and then we think of some classifier and we clap, right? ML ho gaya, AI ho gaya. But in this case, we said, the real challenge with, closed pipeline AI or even ML is about actually setting up the MLOps pipeline. And it's not easy managing those models. It's not easy managing multiple pipelines, and hell breaks loose and there's only one guy who knows it, and then that person just goes and saves the day every time. Well, it saves the day, but it's very inefficient. So most companies are now investing in figuring out what does MLOps pipeline mean. And so that's what this project is about. How do you have an API based approach to training of models, feature engineering, feature storage, deployments, and so on. So tackled a tough problem here, but over to you, Janvi and Pratyaksh, who made it seem so easy.
Yes, thank you. I'll just share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, Janvi, we can see it. Go for it.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janvi Lande, and today I have with me Pratyaksh Singh. So today we'll be looking at what Pratyaksh and I have contributed for since around 2 months over the machine learning platform. And we will do so with the exploration of usage with credit card fraud detection. So basically, the data sets we're working with today are credit cards, profiles, transactions data set. As you can see, the 3 data sets have a common feature, which is the CC num, which is the number of credit cards. What we'll do is we're going to train a model with data sets, and I will walk through ingesting the data sets, loading the data sets, getting feature engineering done, creating feature groups and feature views in our feature store. And then we'll feed this on to our training pipelines. As you can see, the first step is to load the data sets, which is the transaction CSV and the profile CSV. The transaction CSV has the timestamp, location, amount spent, along with a fraud label in this CSV, and the profile CSV consists of basic historical data of the user. The next step would be to perform some basic feature engineering, create feature groups using Hopsworks open source library, perform feature selection, create feature views with the fraud labels, and then finally get a training data set, which we will feed on to our training pipelines. The final feature view or the training data looks like this. Now, further on, I will go on to the Hopsworks feature open source library, which provides an intuitive UI for anyone with basic ML knowledge to create these feature groups and feature views to put them to good use. The first feature group that you can see over here consists of basic features of
For example, the number of credit cards performing transaction, the location difference between consecutive transactions, etc. The second feature group that you can see is the fraud batch detection, which is basically consists of this fraud label that we're going to put to good use. These two feature groups together can be created. These two feature groups can be combined to get, these two feature groups can be combined to get a feature. Basically, the idea of using a feature store is sometimes we want to use, reuse, and keep updating our features. This is where Hopsworks open source feature store library comes into play. Now, this fraud label, which has been created from the combination of the other two feature groups that I just showed, will help us enable a training data set. Now, Pratyaksh, can you take over from here and feed it onto the TFX pipelines?
Yes, thank you very much. I will share my screen. Hello everyone, I'm Pratyaksh and I will be demoing the machine learning platform app. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible. Go ahead.
So, hello, good afternoon everyone. I'm Pratyaksh and I will be demoing the machine learning platform app. So, the main goal of this machine learning platform is to enable users with basic to no knowledge of machine learning to build a model, train it, and then deploy it for their day-to-day uses. So one of the key component here is to have minimal user interaction, and this is what we mainly focused on. We built this platform from scratch, and currently we only have the backend, and I will be displaying that to you. So the first thing that a user needs to train any model is the dataset. So to get the dataset, you can make a call on API/datasets, which will basically show you all the available dataset for your model to train. So for example, let's say I want to train a model on, I can choose any of the dataset, but let's say I want to train a model of fraud detection. So I will just choose from, I will just append fraud detection here, and this will make a call, and then it will return me all the available feature with the fraud detection. Some of the available features are amount, and then you have the fraud level here, which is of categorical type and can take two values, fraud or not fraud. And this is what we will use to build our model. This is what our model will predict. So to create a model, you can go on to API/model/create, and then you can give the basic inputs for the model, and then this will create a model. For example, let's say I want to create a model. I will give it a name. For example, it has a title of fraud detection, a brief description about the model, which is optional, the data set that I want to train on, the feature that I will be choosing from the list of the available features that I had, the level that I want to predict, in our case, fraud level, and then when I make a post request, it creates a model and then returns us with this ID. Now this ID can be used to explore more about this model. So I can just go on to API/model/this ID, and then I can see more information about the model. These are all the things that I've inputted to the model. And next thing that you have is test loss, test accuracy, train loss, train accuracy. These are currently none. This is because we haven't trained our model. Now to train the model, what I can do is I can just call /train on it, and this will begin the training for the model. Now this will the training of the model will take some time. So I've already trained the model and I will display it. So to get all the available model, I can make a call to API/model, and this will return me all the models that are present for prediction. So let's say I will choose one of the model for fraud detection. So for example, I have this model for fraud detection dataset. So I will just choose this model. And when I choose this model, I want to look more into it. So I will just go into this. I will go into model/ID, and this will give me more information about the model. So it has a test accuracy of 80%, while train accuracy of 96%. So now if I want to make prediction on it, I can just put /predict here, and then I can input the features, the value for the features that I have. So all the features that my model was trained on. So I can just input it here. Sorry for this. So I can just input it here, and then when I call, when I make a post request for this particular model, so it will load the model and then use this feature, and then use this feature to make the prediction. So for our case, the probability of this being not fraud is 94%, and the probability of this being fraud is 5%. So yeah, so we have successfully built a model and then use it for making prediction. I think I'm out of time, so that will be enough for me. Thank you.
Fantastic work, Janvi and Pratyaksh. So over to you, Puneet, for feedback.
Right, so this is deep down techie work. I have a question. In fact, the training that you're doing, are you using neural networks in the backend or for the models, or you're using some other classification methods?
Yes, we are using neural networks only at the backend.
Oh, okay, fine. So as I understand, you have a platform where you can, it makes it easy for one to provide the training data and generate models, right? Is that correct? The objective of this. Okay. And I think that is again very useful, extremely useful, because like you said, everybody cannot get into that, the command line mode of doing things. And so this interface for training data sets, it's I think a great idea. Again, you will have to document it well for someone to really use it, make it usable. I think that would be the thing. And also many more, like, you've taken fraud analytics as an attractive example. And so many would be interested in using it. Again, documentation will be the key to explain what it can do and the potential it has.
Yes, sir. We already documented it pretty well, and then we have made a PR on the GitHub.
Sure.
And for the user interaction, we are planning to make UI so that it is even easier for the user to interact with the platform. And due to the time constraint, we were not able to make it the provided coding, but we are planning to do it afterwards.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you, Kiran?
Kiran?
Yeah, no, nothing much to add. Yeah, I think it is definitely can see value for the work that Janvi and others have done. So I think it's great, guys. And I think if you really go ahead, put that UI out, put the documentation out, I'm sure that, because it's a generic framework that can be used across, and there's a lot of interest these days in many models, including in Gov. And I'm sure you might be watching some of the work that Bhashini has been producing recently.
Yes,
with lots of data sets. And I think, the next level is really about people being able to use those data sets and then starting to create many of these. And contribution like yours could actually be really valuable in this space. So please keep at it, keep pushing ahead. And I think great work done.
Democratizing ML. I think that's a good aim. Anybody should be able to use it. Okay.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Great, good job.
Nice work again, Janvi, Pratyaksh. Next up, coming up, Ansh. And Ansh has worked on a competency passbook project. So when we think of competency passbook, we think of report card, we think of lots of data given to a student. And while it started that way, Ansh quickly figured out, look, this is really boils down to a verifiable credentials problem. And how do you actually get verifiable credentials in the hands of a user in a format that the user or probably a requester really wants to see that format? So so Ansh had to traverse a variety of fields. First, education domain to understand what are competency passbooks, then getting into verifiable credentials, then coming up with a whole spec for what does it mean to actually request a verifiable presentation, understanding difference between credential presentation and then getting into what a requester format means like. So Ansh, over to you. Would love to hear how have you traversed this journey and what have you come up with finally?
Thank you so much, sir. Is my screen visible? Right.
Yeah, we can see the branch. Go ahead.
Right. Okay. So, first of all, a very good afternoon to one and all present here. My name is Ansh Sarkar. I'm from KIT Bhubaneswar, and I've been working on the competency passbook project since the last 2 months. So first of all, it's an honor to be presenting in front of all of you. And today's presentation is going to be all about the self-sovereign identity ecosystem, a bigger part of the verifiable credential ecosystem, which I discovered lately, and I've been working on it a lot. So starting with the physical world, in case of physical world, credentials are actually physical documents which are present in our wallets. So whenever we go to an authority, we present these credentials to the authority, who then verifies the issuer and then tells us about the legitimacy of our credentials. So SSIs are nothing but just a digital counterpart to this physical interaction which happens in the real world. So in case of SSIs, we have 3 major entities: the issuer, the verifier, and the holder. So the names are pretty self-explanatory. All these three entities, they use a distributed ledger. It could be a blockchain. It could also be a centralized database, which stores data, stores unique identities, and all the other aspects of the ecosystems. Moving forward, we have been working on the backend development for this entire framework, the first prototype. And SSI ecosystem is made up of 7 major pillars, and we have tried to roll out the first prototypes of each and every one of them. DID resolvers, verifiers, we have implemented all the first prototypes of them, and we have used a lot of open source projects. We have implemented them to speed up the process of development, and these are the ones which we have used. All of this, the entire architecture has been based on the VC data model architecture given by W3C. And moving forward, the screens which we have mainly implemented, we have implemented the most basic ones. The sign up screen has been done, and also some more complicated ones like the schema creator, which allows you to create and edit schemas. The template creator, which allows you to decide how you want to present a particular verifiable credential. It gives you a kind of visually appealing way to present your credentials. We have also created all the APIs which are required to get the work done, and these will be soon integrated with the UI as well. Moving to a very short demo of the app interface which we have been building. I hope this is visible to everyone. So this is my mobile screen, and this is the app which we have been working on. So this is a splash screen which you're greeted with every time you log into the app, and you click on the Get Started button. It's a really simple demo. You go to the main screen, and you can see your avatar and your name at the top of the navigation pane. And these are all the credentials, the verifiable credentials which are stored locally on your like device. And then the transactions which you see here are nothing but the various requests which have been made to and from your wallet in order to authorize your credentials. You also have a drawer option here to save contacts so that you can easily, have access to frequently issued credentials, right? Coming back to our presentation, I would like to talk about the vision which we have for Competency Passport. We want to bring it up as a community which is devoted towards creation and development of open source SSI infrastructure. There are a lot of things which verifiable credentials can make possible, a lot of use cases which we want to discover and implement, and that's what our future vision is. So the first one is obviously identification and authentication, a place where we see an intersection with MOSIP, and the way MOSIP requires people to go to a physical center and get their biometrics verified. What SSIs do is SSIs are essentially doing it. They're doing the same thing, but in a cryptographic manner, right? So that's one of the major use cases of SSIs, which we can see. Health records from your applications, from your appointments, prescriptions, everything. We envision it like one of the major goals of the National Health Authority is to help people get access to health data. So SSIs can be a really good tool to do that in a trustless fashion. And lastly, I would like to talk about badges. For example, this is my GitHub account, and I have badges right here, 2 badges right here. And these badges, currently, they're not shareable. So what if we could convert this into a GitHub card of sorts, add it to my digital wallet, and then make it shareable, right? So that provides an incentive for a learning management system, which was what it was essentially meant to be. So this analogy can be extended to any physical document, and it can give you access to each and every document right on your mobile phone, completely verifiable and on any place on earth, and you are the sovereign controller of that particular credential. That's the goal which we plan to achieve. So thank you very much for your time, and that's my presentation.
Kiran, you want to go ahead with feedback?
Yeah, no, I think very, very powerful idea, folks, on verifiable credentials. In fact, it's a space that is just starting to see a lot of attention within GovTech, and I think we have also got the eGov guys doing a lot of work when they did COVID and the COVID thing as a VC. I think we saw a lot of it, and we are starting to now look at what are the use cases in healthcare where this can come in. I think you've taken on a fairly ambitious and a fairly large portion. I saw that during your demo that you're trying to come up with kind of a UI by which I could design the output format for my VC. I could create content of my VC. Though on the content side of the VCs, actually, there is a lot of debate sometimes on what kind of standards will be completely usable and internationally acceptable. Because see, for example, even with the COVID vaccine certificate, it was important that multiple countries kind of agree upon kind of a common standard. So sometimes, even though the tool is quite important, I think the content itself usually takes a certain amount of time to resolve. But building this and providing this as open source infrastructure that's easily adoptable, I think will really make a difference to the world of VCs. So great work there, and do continue to push on this direction.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Puneet?
Ansh and team, I think this area is of great interest, and especially to me, because I come from ID background. A lot of work happening in this. There's so much interest in this verifiable credential thing. Good that you're using W3 standards for it. Stick to standards as much as possible. There is a nice effort going on in MOSIP called Mobile ID as an NG app. Go through that, because we are kind of crossing roads here in many ways. Maybe there's a synergy in terms of what we can do together. You also have to look at sharing credentials in offline mode. So the biggest concern is you need not go to a server to verify anything. Between two mobile phones, you can share credentials and verify each other, and you're done, right? So look at those capabilities which we are working in MOSIP as well. I think you'll find it a lot interesting, but huge space, a lot of tremendous interest in this area. Great. I think you've started really well and looking at a holistic, solution. Excellent.
Thank you, sir.
Fantastic work, Ansh. Very difficult problem, and you've tackled it well. So next up, let's welcome Himanshi and Deepdarshan. Himanshi and Deepdarshan have worked on the Sunbird QML player. So this QML player, if you're not aware, the Sunbird QML standard is an NDR standard for how to express questions, how to express a group of questions, how to navigate through question sets, and so on, which is the standard used by Diksha, which is powering all the assignments. So in Haryana, board exams recently happened using question papers generated, they were stored in QML, interaction was in QML, everything. So now there's a QML player that enables students and teachers all to interact with that particular question using QML format. Adding functionality to QML player is what Himanshi and Darshan have done, and added different features. So what that enables is, get a broader ecosystem on a stable product. It's a stable product, but how do you push the limits? How do you get others to also contribute to it? One of the early examples of that. So go for it, Himanshi and Deepdarshan, over to you. We can see your screen. Go for it.
Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. My name is Himanshi and I am working on Sunbird QML player project under Karthik Palla along with Deepdarshan.
Deepdarshan, you're on mute.
In today's agenda, we are gonna take a look over the project description, then what features we have implemented, and then finally we will go over the future scope. About the QML player, before that, we all have realized the importance of online learning during this pandemic, and also the importance of online assessment. We have so many platforms for online learning like Google Meet, Zoom, and even we use WhatsApp for that purpose. But what about online assessment? So for smooth conduction of online assessment, the QML player comes and plays its role. It's basically a player which is responsible for rendering questions and question sets created as per the QML spec, and it Diksha platform, which is a national learning platform, also uses the QML player. Under QML player, around 650 plus question sets and around 11,000 questions have been published till now.
So features to be implemented. There are two major features that are needed to be implemented in Sunbird QML player. First one are the shuffling of options, and second one are the enabling the MSCQ tag portion. So talking about the first feature, shuffling of options. So previously, the Sunward QML player supports the shuffling of questions, which ensures the creator that they will not easily cheat that learners will not easily cheat in the exam. But there is a loophole in it, that learners will identify the question and then they can just cheat the options. So by shuffling the options, we will ensure that learners will not shuffle, not just identify the option and then go ahead. So you can see the students' reaction on seeing the shuffling of options in the quiz. So you can see the before shuffling options, player P and Q are attempting the question set, and if the question sets are same, they are getting the same question, same options. But after the shuffle of options, for same question, they are getting the different options, different order of options.
MCQ type question. Before this project, the QML player supports only single correct MCQ type question, but after this, we want to implement multi-correct MCQ type question. As you can see on the left side of this window, initially the player was able to select only one option, but after the implementation of this feature, the player is able to choose more than one option, and to distinguish between the question whether it's a single correct or multi-correct, you can see here it is a radio button. It's in circle shape, and for multi-correct it is in square shape.
So after the UI creation, the main part is the scoring of MCQ questions. So talking about, while I am doing the scoring policy, I first analyze how the scoring policy for MCQ type question is done. Then I planned my own solution, and accordingly I kept in the mind that the partial marking should be there in the MCQ type question, as it is very important for learners' point of view. So let's come to our live demo. So you can see the option shuffle feature is there. So you can see on the left there is a option shuffle option shuffle feature Sunward QML player before the option shuffle feature, and here we enabled the option shuffle feature. So if player Q and P and Q are performing the test, they are getting the same options. You can see that. If he will replay the game, they are getting the same options. But after enabling the option shuffle, the player P and Q are getting P and Q will get the different options. You can see this. And let's Himanshi will cover the MCQ type question demo. Let me.
So you can see in the left side of the window in that question set, there is only single correct MCQ option. If the player decides to play this game, or you can say the question set, the left side, the player is able to select only one option. You can see there is this circle option which shows there is only single option correct. But when the player decides to play this game, now the player is able to select more than one option. And to identify which is multi-correct, there was a square box which distinguished single correct and multi-correct MCQ.
And
future scope. The first feature we were planning to implement was read aloud. It's basically this will read the question statement and will be helpful for those students, especially which can't see. And for pictures, they can give some description of the image.
And the second feature that we want to implement in the future is distributing the copy in the QML player. It will ensure that it will further enhance the security of students will not easily cheat in the exam.
Thank you for your time.
I had a query.
Next was him.
Sorry.
Kiran, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I had a query. So does the QUML specification already support a MMCQ format, or did you have to extend the QML to support that? And also, I think you started talking about scoring, but I did not really understand how you actually handled scoring on both of those. Can you just brief us a bit on?
Yes, sir. So like QML player previously doesn't support the MCQ type questions.
The player doesn't, but what about the spec itself? Like when somebody is defining a question, could they define a multiple format question? Because the player didn't support, they probably wouldn't define it. So does the specification allow it in the first place?
Yes, sir. Like the question is not clear to you. Like, can you repeat the question?
Like when somebody is writing a question that has to be used in the player, they're using this QML spec, right? The QML format.
So like, yeah.
No, sir. Currently, the question setter hasn't the permission to set questions which have multi-correct. We have to work for that part as well, but this is just for the UI part.
Okay, so you have not changed or looked at the where I define the questions, there is still the ability to change it is still pending, is it?
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
we will cover that.
Okay. All right. And so what was your viewpoint on scoring?
So like for scoring policy, firstly we kept in mind that partial correct option will be there. That will include like if there are 4 correct options, the student will correct the 2 options, they will get the marks.
Okay. All right. Puneet?
Right. I mean, I had the same questions what Kiran asked, and see, these features extremely important. They are very, very, we know that they'll be used and extremely useful. Even I had the question of whether QML requires an extension, and you guys can contribute to the extension of QML, or it's already there. So that's for you to just, figure out. On scoring policy, like, is there a way to define a scoring policy and then it'll act accordingly? And that also, if it's not, there could be a very good addition into the thing. Where the scoring policy itself, it could be, a little bit sophisticated as well. But, if the option to, for the users to define a policy will be good if it's not there already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll keep that in mind.
Right. Otherwise, very useful, obviously. Good job. And I think you will again, your contributions, I suppose, will find their way into the Sunbird, overall repos and so on. So that'll be great.
Perfect. Nice work, Himanshi and Deep Darshan. As you got feedback, definitely continue the project to actually get it into the overall player, extend the spec. It's a matter of documentation and all. You have a fantastic mentor from the Sunbird team to guide you. So couldn't be better than that. So then next up, coming up, Khushbu. So Khushbu has worked on the access control project. And one of the challenges with access control is that we always have some hard-coded login, unfortunately, coupled with some building blocks. So you have, key cloak, say, tightly coupled with a Sunbird RC, or then you have some of the other, very opinionated login kind of approach when it comes to a bunch of building blocks. This project has been to figure out the feasibility of using a OAuth 2 proxy to front all applications and implement Fusion Auth as a OpenID Connect provider. So using basically taking OpenID Connect provider and creating providers for that can be basically extended and really let everyone create proxies and then support whatever login system you want. And so that would have multiple implications across a lot of projects, and we've already started implementing it in a couple of areas. So over to you, Khushbu. Would love to hear your journey and see where it has come so far.
So thank you, Rahul, for such a lovely introduction. I will move forward to the agenda today. So we will be covering the following topics today. So what do you mean by access control? So as we all know, to create a new service, we need a login system and authentication. So as we can see in the other application, we have built the login screen from scratch and all of these securing routes, managing route states. So all of these leads to duplicated code as shown here, these components being rendered everywhere. Second thing we can do is making changes to the older project, but making changes to the older project is a little scarier, and because a lot of context transfer has to be done before implementing your implementation. So the solution we came up is nothing new but a auto proxy. So now we will be creating a stateless microservices and in a microservice that will proxy all the requests and ask the you login if you are not authorized. So this will keep a separation of concerns and not tie your code to a particular JWT or any provider. This will give a single sign-on capability that can be restricted to a particular domain and domain. So we will be using the OAuth provider can be integrated with multiple providers. So we will be using a generic auth provider, which is a fusion auth. So all through this project is not limited of using the fusion auth. We can use with Keycloak or any other providers. This project is about knowing which provider to use when. So after this exciting 2 months tenure, I am happy to say that we are able to finish some of the major challenges. So after understanding the OAuth spec, we are able to integrate with one existing project, which is a Shiksha platform. The documentation is PR is done for the teams to onboard this new service. A local setup and POC is closed for it. So this is a flow we have used during the demo. We will be using. These are the API you will see in the demo. And let's move to the summary of the demo. So I will be showing an OAuth proxy on a Node application with a side-by-side other services with a common ACL, access control, within a Genwave. And then I will be showing OAuth proxy with the Shiksha platform. So all the host and domains are created locally. They can be created, applied to any service. So let's dive into the live demo. So as you can see, I am not unauthorized. So in fact, I will be seeing the OAuth proxy sign-in page. So if I sign in, I will be redirected to the authentication provider. I have created another service, which is a dummy service. This can show that it is also showing sign-in. So when I click this, you're also showing the, so I will be redirected to the, it's taking, so firstly, I should show you the Shiksha platform OAuth proxy. So this is a deployed link. So when I sign in, I will be moved forward to the Keycloak Sunbird RC. And then after entering details, I will be moved forward to the upstream server without having login in with the login system. So I can see my the OAuth proxy has saved an cookie in it in the session store. So let me give you a video, show you a video. I haven't created a video in case of such. So yeah. So this is, you can see that I have been in a authentic. Now this is a dummy services. These are the two services. Now they are showing. Let me replay it in towards. And we can restrict this in a particular email. We have restricted it to a particular email domain, and we are logging into. Don't have to log in again. We are just have. This is a single. It is providing a single sign-on capability, and we can see that after sign-out, we are signing out from both the services. But the cookie, the Fusion Auth has saved the cookie. So this is. So let's move to the presentation. So this is show our end-to-end flow, what happened when we don't have the OAuth proxy. So on further note, we will be integrating it with the other government tech products like the UCI web channel, the UOS, and we as this service will be used by the service which will be used by million of users, we will be horizontally scaling it. And this is the GitHub repo in which there are many good first issues which everyone can contribute. So thank you C4GT for presenting this amazing opportunity to all of us. And
Great.
thanks for
Thanks
your
so much,
attention.
Khushbu. Sorry, just get rid of time there. So, Khushbu, thank you so much for that wonderful contribution. Over to you, Kiran, for feedback.
So great. This one, Khushbu, though I couldn't catch many aspects of it through the demo and also the specific. I mean, it is an involved topic. One thing you should know is that it is of really importance in GovTech. In fact, quite recently, the DigiLocker team, and you heard Abhishek ji at the early part of this call. So they are also moving to make DigiLocker, which has a very large number of users. I don't remember the exact number, but I think I know that last it was over 35-40 million users. To be able to reuse this one through a similar approach of making it a single sign-on across various government programs. So, but this need is definitely there. You know, we constantly see. You know, I can tell you in healthcare, when I look at the front ends across the app, Asha worker who's a healthcare worker typically uses about 6 to 7 apps. Each one has a different login. They don't even have a single identity for that individual. And work like this, contributions like yours, can start helping us move in a way where, as different systems come up, they kind of start using a single sign-on kind of an approach and a work to proxy kind of an approach.
Puneet?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, echo Kiran's thoughts here. One thing is, you know, they're providing the OpenID Connect interface, and you know, for example, in MOSIP's authentication, we are doing it now. We are providing an OpenID interface to our proprietary APIs that were there for authentication, and so that could be behind this proxy. Of course, we probably not thinking of single sign-on with a national ID necessarily, but that could be offered depending on if it's okay. So in that sense, yes, authentication authorization is again a big area today with these multitude logins and stuff like that, and maybe integration with national ID authentication and stuff like that would really make it very interesting for the citizens of a country. So great job.
Fantastic work, Khushbu. Thank you, Puneet and Kiran, for all the amazing advice and feedback. If I had to ask you one thing that you're taking away from all of this, as we, you know, you've seen all the projects, and before we get into the felicitation, I'll give you like one-line background for each person, you know, behind the scenes. But before then, want to get your quick feedback. You know, overall, you've seen so many projects back to back, rapid fire. One takeaway that each of you are taking away, and one thing that you would like to say to these young bravehearts who have actually dealt with GovTech projects, mostly for the first time, actually, each one of them.
Well, I'll go first, I guess. So firstly, I think I've been super impressed. You know, I think I work with a lot of technology teams in government, far older than all of you guys. And I think the contributions I've seen, I saw the timeline chart of how much time you have taken to kind of deliver this. So it goes back to, you know, my belief that, you know, even each individual and each little contribution that we all make really adds to the larger whole of making things move forward. So firstly, very impressed by both the effort as well as the quality of work that I think you've been able to produce in a very short time. I also am really you know, happy, you know, Samagra and you guys, that this seems to be like a stepping stone, a journey. You know, I hope many of these guys stay in the open source world, continue to contribute, and you know, your names will be familiar in the GitHub community for time to come. So really looking forward to that. Thanks for sharing this opportunity. I think I also picked up several things that could be really useful in the work that we are doing really at the NHA, and I'm definitely will be pointing specifically both UHAS as well as the RC registry work that I saw, the two bits that are, I think, immediately direct value to some of the work that we're doing at the National Health Authority, and I'll definitely point the teams to take a look at these contributions that are coming. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kiran. Kind words. Puneet?
I'm amazed to see the kind of work, the amount of work and the quality of work done in such a short time. That's you know, that's striking. the thought process, I'm also amazed at the variety of projects, that young engineers are thinking in different directions and looking at real world problems today in the digital arena. And I'm very, very impressed by the choice of projects. The other thing, all of you are, the fact that you are working with open source. Open source is not just about making a source code open. It's a mindset. It's a spirit of open source spirit where we share and we also learn from others. And I think the fact that you are all thinking in open source manner is a great contribution. It can be a great gift to everyone. So like your enthusiasm, energy, and well, for me, yes, lots of learning experience from your projects. As Kiran also said that, it's been learning experience for us. And indeed, you guys are bang on the topics that you have chosen, the projects you have chosen. One thing, keep your open source projects alive. What happens with open source is, if I go to an open source project on GitHub and see that there was no activity last 2 years, I may not pick up that project. So keep the projects alive, check-ins alive, contributions alive on your projects, and keep your names there. Very important. Open source people are the heroes, actually.
Thank you so much, Puneet. Thanks, Puneet, Kiran, for being there and for your super kind words, and really, really encouraging to see this coming from you, because it really means a lot. What we're also going to do is, as you rightly said, you have to continue this journey. And as you rightly hinted at, each one of the contributors, one of the things in open source, there are levels, right? You first do documentation, then you actually write some code, submit a PR, somebody even merges it, that's a level upgrade. Then you're a good contributor, people contribute. Then after many, many months of trust, you actually become a maintainer. So it's very hard becoming a maintainer on a large project. And so what we're going to do is really, really impressed by your work and your work ethic and the hard work that you're putting, and really motivated by your desire to actually continue these projects. What we're going to do is, each one of you are going to be maintainers on the repositories that you are part of right now. So you may be contributors right now. By tomorrow, all of you are going to turn maintainers on these very important repositories. So we're putting a lot of trust in you, but you are the future. You are going to take this ahead. And so, what better to do this than by actually making you maintainers on these. So congratulations. It's a big step and a big trust that the community is putting on your shoulders. All right, with that, I really want to thank the panelists once again, and hope you can stick around for another 10 minutes as we go through the felicitation. I want to give you a peek journey, but before that, I want to show you some behind the scenes in terms of how this journey unfolded. Over to you, Gayatri.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you to both the panelists for your encouragement, to the contributors, invaluable feedback and insight. Thank you so much. We will now switch gears and move on towards the last segment of today's event. The essence of C4GT is the contributor and mentorship experience. When the program was launched, our collective hope was that this program will help in building a solid community for learning and collaboration. Through a short video, we have tried to capture the essence of C4GT 2022's mentors and contributors and how that hope has been realized. So let's just quickly see what our contributors and mentors have to say.
C4GT is a unique opportunity which has great access to pioneering leadership, core group of mentors, and groundbreaking digital projects, something that will impact life of billion Indians. C4GT provides a platform for young students to upskill themselves and apply it to the product that would be used on an Indian scale. Projects at C4GT cater to the problem that governments face in digitizing citizen experiences. This gives our young guns a unique chance to shape the future of digital experiences for the people of India.
Personally, I feel a key highlight of the C4GT program is its mentorship experience. Contributors get hand-sold with the very experienced contributors who have been contributing to the GovTech space, the digital public goods from so long. They get a very valuable feedback from the pioneers in the GovTech, and moreover, most importantly, they get a real world exposure, how the real projects work, how the scalable project works. I believe ki if I could have C4GT platform at my time, so it could be a one-stop shop for the contributors for GovTech.
And this experience I see is not just limited to code. It's actually about a thought process that evolves with GovTech. So here, it's about creating solutions that can scale to over 100 people, that can kind of overcome challenges like multiple languages, localization, AI for multiple languages, internet availability, which we've seen little tricky in rural areas, and also scalability, being able to actually scale to the size that we expect. What I see is that C4GT actually gives them opportunity to just do that. They get exposed to all these GovTechs, DPGs, and they can contribute. And everybody whom I have spoken to is actually very eager to kind of write their first line of code. So that's one great thing. And I want actually C4GT to be a movement that actually students take this forward and create more such disrupting platforms.
I listened to so many GovTech leaders in the midpoint showcase where they gave so many suggestions and also features that could be added in our project. I'm understanding how things actually happen, what's the bigger picture behind these GovTech goods, how the digital goods are actually made, what is the amalgamation of technology with the government so that it could be used in real life. So I think it's a really good experience for me.
So it's tough to summarize everything that I've been able to learn being a part of C4GT over the last few weeks. But like first off, the tremendous exposure to some of the brightest minds in the country is surely at the top of the list. I've also learned more than 5 frameworks over the last 3 weeks, so that definitely makes me a good coder. And I also realized the importance of exhaustive documentation. So definitely something that I'm going to incorporate in my future projects as well.
Whenever I got stuck in some issue, I knew I could call up my friend and discuss the issue with him and come up with a solution together. This allowed me to never feel alone and allowed me to become a better coder and rather a confident coder. After experiencing this power of peer-to-peer learning, I never want to go back and doing projects alone. All thanks to the C4GT program.
Thank you so much to all our contributors and mentors. It is now time for the most special part of today's finale, the felicitation ceremony. Our 13 selected contributors have persevered consistently along with their college commitments and exams to get to this point. As their coding journey at C4GT 2022 comes to an end, we wish to felicitate them on their graduation and wish them the very best for the next step in their career. I would now like to invite Rahul to please felicitate the graduating cohort in the august presence of our panelists, Kiran and Puneet. Over to you, Rahul.
It gives me great pleasure to congratulate the graduating cohort of C4GT this year. I'll now call upon the names of our contributors one by one and give you a little snippet of them behind the scenes. So let's start in alphabetical order. Akshay Sharma, who worked on Project Yaos. Akshay, we really loved your proactiveness when it comes to peer learning. Not only did you attend other people's sessions, you also took one yourself. So congratulations for graduating out of this. Ansh, next up, Ansh Sarkar, who worked on the Competency Passbook project. Ansh, you've really set a very high bar, benchmark of quality for your peers. You're truly committed to open source. You think like that. We really see you contributing to open source GovTech. As we could see from your LinkedIn post, blog, you really internalized it very well. So congratulations. Looking forward to working more with you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Next up, Arshpreet Singh, who worked on UCI web channel. Arsh will never forget your enthusiasm, reflected in way you give your demos, how you respond to your peers' queries on Discord. You know, one of the things about GitHub and open source is about responding to others, helping others. You really did that well, how you shared articles every now and then. So fantastic work, Arshpreet. Congratulations on meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, Deep Darshan, who worked on the QML project. Deep Darshan, you have shown real sincerity and diligence right from the start. Even though I know you had exams, you keep seeing those updates, you had exams, college commitments, but you'd never slack off from Code for GovTech. So that's the spirit. Keep it up. Congratulations, Deep Darshan.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, Hardik Sharma, who worked on Shiksha announcements. Hardik, you took one of the first peer learning sessions, if I remember right. That was the first peer learning session part of C4GT. You also freely circulated resources for your peers on Discord. Very, very nice proactive work. Congratulations on graduating, Hardik.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, Harshil. Harshil worked on X-Admin Sunbird RC project. Harshil, you have real in-depth knowledge of your project, and it really shows. So you're a hard worker, very optimistic about the outcomes. So that's the spirit, when in GovTech projects, you always see things from a pessimistic lens and you will really die of depression. But that optimism that you have, that optimism that you exude is exactly the thing needed for GovTech projects. Keep that up.
Thank you.
Next up, Himanshi. Himanshi Kukreja, you have worked on the QML project and you have good presentation skills. I think really easy to follow. Every time you presented part of the midpoint or any intermediate feedback sessions, it was really easy to follow through what you're saying. So keep that up. I'll always remember that about your projects. So congratulations on graduating from this cohort.
Thank you, sir.
Janvi Lande from the machine learning ops project. Janvi, you took up a very complex project head on, and best of all, you did brilliantly. So kudos to your sincerity, staying in it, sticking to it through thick and thin, and really coming up with something that's very useful. Congratulations on graduating this year. Next up, Kanika. Kanika Golov worked on the YAOS project. Kanika, your oral articulation, when we've seen you in intermediate feedback sessions, you have a very good diction, voice modulation, love your regular LinkedIn posts, weekly updates on Discord. All of that completes, there's every time you've seen the feedback coming from panelists saying, hey, now articulate this better, express this better, take it to the world. I think you really know how to do that well. So keep that in combination with the actual coding work that you've been doing, and you'll be a real asset to GovTech in general. Next up, Khushbu. Khushbu Agarwal worked on access control. Khushbu, you've shown very high commitment to upskilling and your own professional growth. You've kind of seen that as you came in and ramped up on things, never said no to learning, really upskilled yourself. Kudos on the steep learning curve that you've had. That's a great example of what you actually can learn from open source. Congratulations on graduating, Khushbu. Next up, Nilesh Sharma worked on the UCI web channel. Nilesh, you not only ramped up very quickly on your project, that was very impressive, but you also showed great teamwork working closely with Arsh. So I think that teamwork is exactly how open source projects should be run. So congratulations on being part of the C4GT graduating class. Nilesh
Thank you,
Sharma.
sir.
Next up, Pratyaksh. Pratyaksh Singh worked on the machine learning ops project. Pratyaksh, you really showed great teamwork working with Janvi to crack this very difficult ML ops kind of problem. You would see a lot of cutting edge startups working on ML ops, and you really took that head on as part of just a couple months of the old project and learned up everything from scratch, built out something very cool. So congratulations, especially you will remember your teamwork very well. Next up, Siddhant. Siddhant Tohan work on the Shiksha front end. Siddhant, you've given a great demo showcase, today also in midpoint, reflection of your very high quality work that you've done. I'll always remember how to express refactor kind of code and the benefits of how you do it well. So thanks for setting the bar of quality for all of your peers and all us in general. Congratulations for graduating, Siddhant.
Thank you, sir.
We also have some special, additional special mentions without which we wouldn't have been as successful as it was. So coming up on special mentions, first of all, voice for C4GT. So want to call out Akshay and Ansh. You showed great proactiveness in spreading the C4GT experience and learning. While Akshay took the lead in peer-to-peer sessions, Ansh took the lead in experience sharing and blog writing. You did this without a push or nudge from the org team. Everyone thinks, oh, you were nudged about it, you were given this to say, but you literally did it on your own, from your own interest. So it's your own enthusiasm. So a special mention there. Great work. You get a Voice of C4GT award.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Would also like to present the honorary mention award, giving an honorary mention to Tushar Agarwal from Krishna Institute of Engineering and Technology. he contributed to 2 of our projects, despite not being able to formally be part of the cohort because he had other commitments. His pull requests that he made in his voluntary commitment focused on setting up the project, majorly Gitpod and setup.sh scripts for new contributors to get started with the project. Apart from that, he added Fusion Auth in the centralized access control project, also helped in the monorepo migration of YAOS. It's amazing what Tushar pulled off in the initial days of C4GT as the selections were happening and so on. Totally admire your commitment, Tushar. That's kind of what the open source community is all about. Thanks for being there.
Thanks a lot.
And would like to call out the mentors. So if you think magic happened, you see how 13 young kids from college actually created something so brilliant, while totally amazing work that they have done, and the brilliance speaks for themselves. I'd also like to thank the mentors without which this was not possible at all. These are all familiar names in GitHub in the GovTech community. You'd see them, Ashish, who's actually made the journey from Facebook in the US, migrated to India, and now part of Samagra as an engineering manager. So Ashish has really taken on open source head-on, coming from the other world. And Ashwin has been an inspiration across the GovTech community, has been a volunteer mentor, part of this cohort. Bharat, you must have noticed, in fact, Abhishek or Varad spoke about the birth date fix, right? That was Bharat who made the birth date fix in Covin when he found his own birth date incorrectly computed, the age incorrectly computed. So thank you, Bharat, for being there. Thank you, Chakshu. Chakshu is the tech lead and architect at Samagra, and he's been the brains behind a lot of architecture, a lot of these projects, even conceptualizing them. So congratulations, thanks for being there, Chakshu, all through the journey. Karthik Palla, who's with Sanketika and works very closely with Sunbird, mentored a couple projects here, especially on the QML player. He had a very unique approach of how to ramp up newer folks very easily. They never found any friction, and he's going to get all of that into Sunbird inquiry. So thanks for being there, Karthik. Manav Brambe has been very interested in GovTech. We've always been talking on and off, and he's working part of Postman, but he volunteered to actually be a mentor to a project here, which was really, really very valuable to get his advice for it. And last but not the least, Shruti Agarwal. She's part of Samagra, and while we think of Shruti as like a 10-year-old experienced engineer, Shruti herself is in her 3rd and 4th year of engineering. So she herself did her Google Summer of Code. Then this year she's a mentor for Google Summer of Code. In addition to all this commitment, she's actually been spearheading a lot of initiative within Google, the Samagra Code for GovTech this year. So a lot of brains behind all the activity that you see, the formats, the midpoints, the check-ins, the how should this whole proposal thing happen. A lot of it you would see Shruti's work behind it. So congratulations, Shruti. We need more of you like you. All right. So with that, I want to also thank the mentoring organizations. So the partners that without which this couldn't have happened. So mentoring partners, 8-Step Foundation has been an inspiration throughout the GovTech journey. I'd say they really spearheaded this. Takri, Samagra X, and Sanketika, who's provided mentoring partners voluntarily. The platform partner, where we've used GitHub for a bunch of things, and I'm sure we've used so many different products. It's been a long list, but thanks to all the open source code that exists out there. Outreach partners, we've leveraged CodeChef, Unstoppable, in terms of actually getting the word out. So thank you for being such great partners on that front. And I would like to have a special mention for Omidyar Network. This was the first year of its existence. Like Varad mentioned, right, the first time we pitched to Varad, like, hey, Varad, we're doing something like this. It was very hard to believe that all of this will come together in its first year, will have anything quality work, anyone will even apply. But Omidyar actually took a bet on it, and truly to their spirit, the way they fund impact projects, really, really thankful to their support in these initial days. And thanks, Samagra, for having all of us part of this journey, and thanks for this initiative that I was taking. All right, so with that, want to make sure that we all work together and bring back, C4GT back in 2023. Bigger, better, pilot ticked off, MVP worked great, and I think we've had a few projects, very successful projects. Now let's 10x it next time and really make it bigger impact, bigger participation, really get all of India involved. thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for being here today. And thank you especially for the panelists for spending this time. It's really, really helpful and very inspirational to have you with us here today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Pleasure
Thank you, Rahul.
being here.
Thank you so much. Congratulations to the C4GT class of 2022. Thank you to everyone who joined us today for the finale, including our mentors and partners. We wish all the contributors the very best for their future endeavors. Until next time, from the entire C4GT team, thank you and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.